There is a war being waged, not on a distant battlefield, but within the private landscape of your own mind. It is a silent, intimate conflict, and you are both the soldier and the territory being fought over. You know the feeling. It's the voice that whispers your greatest insecurities right before a moment of opportunity. It's the unseen hand that guides you towards self-sabotage, that second-guesses your joy, that insists you are not worthy of the love you so freely give to others. We have come to call this adversary the inner critic, the saboteur, or perhaps, in our most honest moments, the devil inside. This is not a creature of myth or religion, but a very real force, cobbled together from our deepest fears, or past pains, and all the parts of ourselves we have been taught to disown. Society gives us a simple, brutal instruction for dealing with this inner conflict. Fight it, suppress it, ignore it, numb it, and pretend it isn't there. But this strategy is a lie. This war is unwinnable, because the enemy you are trying to destroy is a fundamental part of you. The more you fight, the more you resist, the stronger this shadow becomes. It feeds on your resistance, growing louder in your silence, manifesting as anxiety, as depression, as a chronic, unshakable feeling that you are living a life that is somehow less than what was meant for you. But what if the goal was never to win the war? What if the path to peace was never through conflict? What if, instead of trying to vanquish this uninvited guest, you learned to dance with it? This journey, this audiobook, is an invitation to a different kind of relationship with yourself. It is about laying down your weapons and extending a hand to that which you fear most. It is about understanding that this inner devil is not a monster to be slain, but a messenger to be heard. Within its snarling voice are clues to your greatest power. Within its darkness lies the key to your most brilliant light. Through the wisdom of ancient philosophies and modern teachers, through the practical magic of the law of attraction and the subtle messages of the universe, we will learn this dance together. We will explore how to access this profound guidance conveniently and consistently, turning drive time into Dharma talks and daily chores into a classroom for the soul. The solution to your inner war is not victory. It is integration. It is time to make peace with all of who you are. It is time to begin the dance. The dance begins not with a step, but with a stillness. It begins with the courage to stop running, to turn around, and to face your partner. For too long, you have pretended you are on the dance floor alone, ignoring the persistent presence that shadows your every move. This presence is the uninvited guest at the banquet of your life. It sits at your table. It drinks from your cup, and it whispers commentary on every choice you make. Yet you have spent years, perhaps a lifetime, pretending not to see it. This is the first and most crucial step in our journey together. The simple, yet profound, act of acknowledgement. We must turn on the lights in the room and see who, or rather, what, has been living with us all this time. Let us first define our terms. For the devil or shadow is not what you might think. It is not an external entity, not a horned beast from some mythological underworld. The inner devil is far more intimate, far more personal. It is a composite, an amalgamation of every part of yourself that you have deemed unacceptable. It is the repository of your disowned selves. Think of it as a deep, psychic bag you have been carrying on your back since childhood. Into this bag, you have stuffed your shame, your rage, your envy, your greed, your vulnerabilities, and your deepest fears. When you were a child and you expressed raw, unfiltered anger, an adult may have told you, "Nice children don't get angry." Into the bag it went. When you felt a pang of jealousy toward a sibling or a friend, a voice, either internal or external, may have shamed you for it. Into the bag it went, the fear of not being good enough, the secret pleasure in someone else's failure, the raw, untamed ambition you were told was unseemly. All of it. Every last piece of your authentic, messy, human experience that did not fit the pristine image of who you were supposed to be was exiled into this growing shadow. This devil, then, is not your enemy. It is your exile, and it wants to come home. The primary strategy we have all been taught for dealing with this bag is one of utter futility. We try to suppress it. We tighten the drawstring, heave it further up on our shoulders, and pretend its weight isn't breaking our back. We try to hold the beach ball of our rage underwater, using all our energy to keep it submerged, wondering why our arms are so tired and why we can't do anything else. But universal law dictates that energy cannot be destroyed. It can only be transformed. The energy you stuff into that bag does not vanish. It ferments. It pressurizes. It becomes toxic. This suppressed energy must find an outlet, and it will, in ways that are far more destructive than its original, honest expression ever would have been. It leaks out as projection. You see, the shadow longs to be seen. And if you refuse to see it in yourself, you will begin seeing it everywhere in others. The person who has disowned their own anger will be infuriated by the anger they perceive in everyone around them. From the slow driver on the freeway to the loud talker in the movie theater, the person who has suppressed their own vulnerability will judge others as weak and needy. The world becomes a mirror for our own disowned parts, and we spend our lives raging at the reflection, never realizing we are only arguing with ourselves. This suppressed energy also erupts in moments of uncontrollable crisis. It's the sudden, disproportionate outburst of rage at a loved one over something trivial. It's the sudden, debilitating panic attack that seems to come from nowhere. It's the act of self-sabotage that demolishes the very opportunity you've been working toward. These are not random malfunctions. This is the uninvited guest, the ignored house guest, finally setting fire to the curtains because you have refused to acknowledge its presence for too long. The great psychoanalyst Carl Jung, who gave us the concept of the shadow, understood this perfectly. He proposed that the goal of a healthy life was not to become a perfect, flawless being of pure light, but to become whole. And wholeness, by definition, requires the integration of the dark. Jung knew that the more we deny our shadow, the darker and more dense it becomes. Imagine you have a guest in your house you'd rather not deal with. First, you just ignore them, hoping they'll leave. They don't. They sit in the living room, clearing their throat. You turn up the volume on the television. They start to tap their foot. You put on headphones. Finally, frustrated and desperate for any kind of attention, they stand up and smash a precious vase. You rush in, screaming, "What is wrong with you? You're a monster." But the guest simply looks at you and says, "I've been trying to talk to you all day." Your shadow is this guest. Its destructive behavior is a desperate plea for your attention, for your awareness. This brings us to the great turning point, the act of courage that this entire journey rests upon. It is the decision to stop ignoring the guest. It is the choice to walk into the living room, turn off the television, sit down, and say, "I see you. I know you are here." This is the courage of acknowledgement. It is not an admission of defeat. It is the declaration of your ultimate power. It is the moment you stop being a victim of your own psyche and start becoming its conscious steward. It is the bravest thing you will ever do, because it requires you to look at the very things you have spent your life avoiding. So how do we practice this acknowledgement in a tangible way? It begins with simple, gentle observation. The first tool is a journal. But this is not a diary of your day's events. This is a shadow journal. Each evening, or whenever you feel a strong, uncomfortable emotion, till you take out this journal and you ask it questions. Not why am I so broken, but questions like, what made me angry today? And what boundary was being crossed? What person or situation sparked envy in me today? And what does it show me that I secretly desire for myself? What did I judge someone else for today? And could that trait possibly be a disowned part of my own story? What am I pretending not to know? You write without censorship, without judgment. The goal is not to fix anything. The goal is simply to make the unconscious conscious, to bring the contents of that heavy bag out into the light, one item at a time, and simply look at it. The second practical step is the practice of mindful naming. Throughout your day, when that familiar voice of the inner critic rises up to tell you that you are not smart enough, that you will surely fail, instead of arguing with it or believing it, you simply and calmly label it. In the quiet of your mind, you say, "Ah, that is the voice of fear," or "I see you, inner critic." When you feel a wave of shame, instead of being consumed by it, you create a tiny sliver of space by noting. This is the feeling of shame. This simple act of naming is incredibly powerful. It separates you, the conscious observer, from the emotion or the thought pattern. You are no longer lost in the storm. You are the lighthouse that is observing the storm. You are not the thought. You are the awareness of the thought. This practice, done consistently, begins to loosen the shadow's grip. You are no longer fighting it, which gives it power, and you are no longer believing it, which gives it control. You are simply observing it, acknowledging its existence as a part of your inner weather, but not the entirety of your sky. This is the beginning of the dance. It is the simple, repeated, courageous act of turning toward what is. Without flinching, we have now acknowledged the uninvited guest. We have found the courage to sit at the table with them. The next logical question, the next step in our dance, is to ask them where they came from. For this devil was not born in a vacuum. It was created, piece by piece, by your life's experience. And to understand its origins is to begin the sacred work of compassion, having invited the uninvited guest to the table. Our next act of courage is to ask a simple question. Where did you come from? Your inner devil, your shadow, was not born with you. It was built. It is a construction of memory, experience, and belief, assembled piece by piece in the workshop of your past. To understand its origins is not to make excuses for it, but to begin to dissolve its power through compassion. This is a work of gentle archaeology, of tracing the genealogy of your own private demons. Imagine yourself as a wise and loving gardener, tending to a magnificent plant that, for some reason, is not thriving. Its leaves are withered. Its growth is stunted. The novice gardener might simply snip off the dead leaves, a temporary fix that does nothing to solve the underlying issue. This is suppression. But you, the wise gardener, I know that the problem is not in the leaves. The problem is in the roots. And so you get down on your hands and knees, and you begin to gently examine the soil, the history of this plant, to understand not just what it is, but how it came to be this way. Our investigation begins in the most fertile and formative soil of all, our childhood. As children, we are not just empty vessels. We are psychic sponges. We have no filters. We absorb the emotional, psychological, and energetic atmosphere of our homes as if it were the very air we breathe. The spoken and unspoken rules of our family become the foundational code of our own operating system. This is the stage of childhood programming. Think back to the explicit messages you received. Phrases like, "Don't be so sensitive," "Big boys don't cry," or "Children should be seen and not heard." Each of these statements was a direct instruction about which parts of your authentic self were acceptable and which parts needed to be hidden away. The vibrant, sensitive part of you that felt the world deeply Into the shadow bag, the vulnerable part of you that needed to express sadness through tears. Into the shadow bag, the exuberant, loud part of you that wanted to take up space. Into the shadow bag, even more powerful than the spoken rules. However, were the unspoken ones. You didn't need to be told that money was a source of anxiety. You could feel it in the tense silence between your parents after the bills were paid. You absorbed their fear of scarcity. And a part of your shadow was born that day. A part that believes the universe is fundamentally lacking and that you must hoard and grasp for every resource. You didn't need to be told that your mother's happiness was your responsibility. You learned it by watching her face light up when you were a good girl and fall when you were not, and so a people-pleasing part of your shadow was forged. A part that believes its own survival depends on managing the emotions of others. This process is not about blame. It is crucial to understand that our parents and caregivers were, in most cases, doing the best they could with the tools they themselves were given. They were simply passing down the programming they received in their own childhoods. They are the gardeners who tended to us with the knowledge they had. The point of this excavation is not to condemn them, but to empower you, to look at the code they installed and to realize, as a conscious adult, you now have the ability to rewrite it. As we dig deeper into the soil of our past, we often find the echoes of trauma. The word trauma can be intimidating. We often reserve it for catastrophic events. The big T traumas like war, abuse, or a devastating accident. These are certainly potent creators of shadow aspects, but just as impactful are the little T traumas. The smaller, more subtle, often repeated emotional wounds that shape our view of ourselves and the world. Little T trauma is the experience of the child who was consistently criticized by a teacher and who formed a core shadow belief that I am stupid. It's the experience of the teenager who was betrayed by a best friend and who built a shadow wall of mistrust with the motto, "It's not safe to be vulnerable." It's the child whose parents were emotionally unavailable, who could not meet their deep need for connection, and who developed a shadow of fierce, lonely independence that whispers, "Asking for help is weak. You can only rely on yourself." These events create emotional ghosts. They are energetic imprints left on our nervous system. So today, when your partner offers a gentle critique of your driving, your disproportionate reaction of shame and anger is not about the driving at all. It is the ghost of that critical teacher rising up from the past. When you hesitate to enter a new, loving relationship, it is the ghost of that teenage betrayal whispering its old warnings. These are the echoes of trauma, the past playing out in the present through the voice and actions of your shadow. Your shadow believes it is still that wounded child, and its primary mission is to prevent you from ever feeling that specific pain again. Now let's widen our lens even further, beyond our immediate family and personal history, to the broader fields of our society and ancestry. We are all born into a culture that has its own set of shadow beliefs. Our society hands us a script for how to be a man, how to be a woman, what success looks like, what is beautiful, and what is valuable for a man. The cultural shadow often includes the suppression of soft emotions like sadness and fear, leading to a shadow that equates vulnerability with weakness. For a woman, the cultural shadow can involve the suppression of ambition or righteous anger, creating a shadow that fears being seen as too much or bossy. We also carry an emotional inheritance from those who came before us, a concept known as generational trauma. Imagine a river. The experiences of your ancestors are events that happened far upstream. Perhaps your grandparents lived through a depression, a great famine, and their experience of profound lack and insecurity was like a landslide that dumped tons of silt into the river. You, generation later, may have never experienced that landslide yourself, but you are still swimming in the murky water. You may have a persistent, inexplicable anxiety around money, a deep-seated fear of scarcity that doesn't match the reality of your life. This could be the emotional silt of your ancestors, a shadow passed down through the family system. This is the genealogy of your demons. They are the logical, creative, and often brilliant survival strategies developed by your younger self in response to your unique family, your personal traumas, and your cultural inheritance. And this understanding leads us to the ultimate purpose of our archaeological dig: compassion. The entire goal of tracing these roots is to fundamentally change your relationship with your shadow. From one of shame to one of profound empathy. You can now look at the angry, defensive part of yourself and understand that it was born to protect the soft, vulnerable child who was hurt. You can look at the perfectionistic, controlling part of yourself and see the scared child who believed that if they could just get everything right, they would finally be safe and loved. You can look at the lazy, procrastinating part of yourself and recognize the exhausted child who learned that it was safer to not even try than to try and fail. The gardener, having examined the roots in the soil, does not yell at the plant for its withered leaves. The gardener understands. The gardener feels compassion. And from that place of compassionate understanding, the gardener knows exactly what the plant needs to heal. It needs new soil, rich with the nutrients of self-acceptance. It needs the gentle water of self-love. It needs the warm sunlight of conscious awareness. You must see that your shadow is not a sign that you are broken. It is a sign that you have survived. Its existence is a testament to your own resilience. Now, with this compassionate understanding of the past, we have a key. We have the context. We can begin to see how this history translates into present-day behavior. We have explored the genealogy of the devil. Now it is time to learn the language it speaks today. The subtle and cunning language of sabotage. Having journeyed into the past to understand the origins of your shadow, we now return to the present moment. For it is here, in your daily life, that the shadow truly speaks. It has a language all its own. A dialect you know intimately, even if you have never consciously studied it. This is the language of sabotage. It is the subtle and not so subtle ways your inner devil manipulates your choices, your emotions, and your circumstances to keep you safely within the confines of what is known, even if what is known is painful. Learning to decode this language is like becoming a master translator for your own soul. You begin to see the hidden meaning behind the patterns that have confounded you for years. The first and perhaps most common word in the shadow's vocabulary is procrastination. We have all been taught to see procrastination as a character flaw, a simple sign of laziness or poor discipline. But this is a profound misreading. Procrastination is rarely about laziness. It is a highly sophisticated, deeply intelligent fear response. It is your shadow's master strategy for keeping you safe from the perceived dangers of action. On one level, it is a protection against the fear of failure. Your shadow whispers, if you never finish the project, it can never be judged as a failure. If you never submit the application, you can never be rejected. If you never truly start the business, it can never go bankrupt. By keeping you in a state of perpetual preparation, your shadow ensures you never have to face the potential pain of not being good enough. But there is a deeper, more cunning fear at play here. The fear of success. This may sound counterintuitive, but it is often the more powerful force. Your shadow understands that success brings visibility. It brings new expectations. It raises the bar. It means leaving the familiar tribe of the comfortable and stepping into a new, unknown territory. And so, just as you are on the cusp of a breakthrough, the shadow pulls the emergency brake. You suddenly feel overwhelmed and decide to clean your entire house instead of making the one sales call that could change everything. You find yourself endlessly researching and tweaking a proposal instead of sending it. This is not laziness. This is your shadow trying to protect you from the perceived dangers of your own light. The second, and most audible, dialect of sabotage is the incessant monologue of the inner critic. This is the voice that provides a running commentary of negativity inside your own head. It is the shadow speaking directly to you. It has many tones, There is the perfectionist, which says, "This isn't good enough yet. You need to do more. Be better. Work harder before you can show this to anyone." The perfectionist's goal is to keep you locked in a cycle of endless revision, ensuring that your work is never born, thus protecting you from the possibility of criticism. Then there is the comparer, which constantly scrolls through the highlight reels of other people's lives, whispering, "Look at them. They're so much further ahead. They're more talented, more charismatic, more disciplined. Who are you to even try?" The comparer's mission is to demoralize you into inaction, convincing you that the game is rigged and you've already lost. And of course, there is the catastrophizer, which takes any potential risk and spins it into a guaranteed disaster. If you go to that party where you don't know anyone, you will definitely say something stupid and everyone will laugh at you. If you ask for that raise, your boss will be offended and you'll probably get fired. This inner critic is not simply being cruel for the sake of it. From its own twisted perspective, it is a guardian. It believes that by keeping you small, it is keeping you safe. It would rather kill your dreams itself than watch them die in the harsh light of the real world. It is the voice of your oldest fears, dressed up in the language of rational, prudent advice. The third form of communication is far more subtle. A psychological sleight of hand called projection. This is the devil's mirror. As we've touched upon, when you refuse to own a part of your shadow, you are destined to see it in everyone you meet. Projection is how your shadow tries to show you what you refuse to see in yourself. Pay close attention to the people who trigger a disproportionately strong emotional reaction in you. The person at work whose perceived arrogance fills you with white-hot rage. Could their confidence be a mirror for a part of you that longs to be more self-assured? A part you were taught was conceited and unlikable. Your rage is not truly at them. It is at the reflection of your own disowned ambition. The friend whose neediness and vulnerability makes you deeply uncomfortable and judgmental. Could they be mirroring your own repressed needs for support and softness? Parts you buried long ago under a persona of impenetrable self-sufficiency. The judgment you feel is the old shame you carry about your own needs. When you find yourself pointing a finger at someone else with intense, judgmental energy, the shadow is inviting you to turn that finger around and point it back at yourself. Not with blame, but with curiosity. It is sending you a coded message. A living messenger disguised as the person who irritates you most. All in an attempt to say, "Please look at this part of you that you have abandoned." Finally, the fourth language of sabotage is the language of escape, which manifests as addictive and compulsive behaviors. When the inner conflict between who you want to be and who your shadow fears you are becomes too painful, the shadow offers you a way out, an anesthetic. These escape routes are not just the obvious addictions to alcohol or drugs. They are the socially acceptable numbing agents of modern life. It's the 3 hours you spend scrolling through social media, numbing your mind with a cascade of digital information so you don't have to feel the anxiety about your future. It's the way you finish an entire bag of chips, not because you are hungry, but because the physical act of chewing and tasting is a momentary distraction from the feeling of loneliness. It is workaholism, the noble addiction, where you bury yourself in tasks and deadlines to avoid the intimidating silence of your own inner world. It is binge-watching an entire season of a show in one weekend, effectively putting your own life on pause to escape into the curated dramas of fictional characters. Each of these behaviors serves the same purpose. They are exits from the present moment. They are ways to silence the discomfort, to turn down the volume on the inner critic, to run from the dance. The shadow drives you towards these escapes because it knows that in the stillness, in the quiet, you might actually hear what it is trying to say. Perhaps the most brilliant illustration of all these languages working together comes from the author Gay Hendricks, who identified a phenomenon he calls the upper limit problem. Hendricks proposes that each of us has an internal thermostat for happiness, an upper limit on how much success, love, and abundance we unconsciously feel we are allowed to experience. This limit was set in our childhood based on the programming we received. When our life is going exceptionally well, when we feel a surge of joy, when we land the big contract or fall deeply in love, we exceed this limit. The alarm bells go off in our psyche. The shadow, believing this level of happiness is unsafe or undeserved, immediately springs into action to create a problem that will bring our mood back down to the familiar, safe temperature. You have a wonderfully intimate and joyful week with your partner, and then you suddenly pick a fight over something completely meaningless. That is the upper limit problem. You receive an unexpected financial windfall, and the next day you make a foolish mistake and lose your wallet or get a huge, unforeseen bill. That is the upper limit problem. You are in a state of creative flow, making huge progress on your life's passion, and you suddenly develop a mysterious headache or feel an overwhelming wave of fatigue. That is the shadow, speaking the language of sabotage, trying to bring you back down to a level of happiness it can handle. It is a masterful, unconscious strategy to keep you from outgrowing your own past. We have now identified the devil, traced its genealogy, and learned to translate its four primary languages: procrastination, criticism, projection, and escape. You can now see these patterns not as random flaws, but as coherent, albeit misguided, strategies. The awareness itself is a monumental victory. You are no longer stumbling in the dark. You can see the script. The next question is the one that changes everything. Now that you can hear the messenger, what will you do? Will you continue to shoot it, to run from it, to argue with it, or are you ready to try a different way? A revolutionary approach that begins not with a fight, but with a profound and unconditional surrender. For years, you have been locked in a struggle. You have been the soldier on the front lines of an internal war, dutifully fighting the parts of yourself you deemed unacceptable. You have resisted your anxiety, wrestled with your anger, and tried to starve your shame into submission. And yet, after all this time, all this effort, the enemy remains. It remains because your resistance is its food. Your fighting is its fuel. Your war is its very reason for being. We have now come to the pivotal moment in our journey together, the great turning point where the war can end and the dance can truly begin. This moment is defined by a single, revolutionary act, the act of radical acceptance. This is the invitation. It is the decision to lay down your arms, not in defeat, but in profound wisdom. It is the choice to stop fighting and to finally, simply, allow. Before we proceed, we must be absolutely clear about what acceptance is and what it is not. Acceptance is not resignation. It is not saying, I guess I'm just an anxious person, so I'll be ruled by fear for the rest of my life. Acceptance is not apathy or passivity. It is not condoning harmful behavior, either toward yourself or others. It is not saying, I feel rage, so it is okay for me to act on it destructively. That is not acceptance. That is avoidance of responsibility. Radical acceptance is something far more powerful and precise. It is the clear, non-judgmental acknowledgement of what is happening in your inner world. Right now, it is the willingness to experience your thoughts, your emotions, and your bodily sensations exactly as they are, without trying to change, fix, or escape them. Imagine a doctor treating a patient with a deep wound. The first step is not to pretend the wound isn't there or to wish it away. The first step is to accept the reality of it, to look at it clearly, to acknowledge its depth, its shape, its condition. Only from that place of clear-eyed acceptance can a healing strategy be formed. To deny the wound is to guarantee it will fester. To accept its reality is the first act of healing. There is a fundamental law of physics in the psychological and spiritual world, And it is this: what you resist persists. The energy you use to push against something actually strengthens it. Think of a Chinese finger trap. The more you pull your fingers away in a panic, the tighter the trap grips them. The only way to get free is to do the opposite of what your instincts tell you. You must gently push your fingers further in. You must move toward the resistance. And in doing so, it releases its hold. Your relationship with your shadow operates under this same law. Imagine you are in a tug-of-war with a great monster. Your inner devil. You are pulling on the rope with all your might. Your muscles straining. Your feet digging into the earth. The monster is immense and powerful. And the struggle is exhausting you, consuming all of your life force. You believe you must win this fight. But what you fail to realize is that the monster's strength is derived entirely from the tension on the rope. Its power is directly proportional to how hard you are pulling. What would happen in that moment of exhaustion and desperation if you simply chose to let go of the rope? The monster, its source of opposing force suddenly gone, would collapse into a heap on the ground. The struggle would be over. Dropping the rope is radical acceptance. You stop pulling. You stop fighting. You let the tension go. This is an act of supreme courage, because it means you must be willing to let the monster just be there for a moment. Without a struggle, you must trust that ceasing the fight will not lead to your destruction, but to your liberation. The spiritual teacher Tara Brach, in her seminal work, tells stories that beautifully illustrate this principle. Imagine a man who suffers from debilitating social anxiety. He has a party to attend on Saturday night. All week, he feels the familiar knot of fear tightening in his stomach. His old strategy, the strategy of resistance, is to fight it. He tells himself, "Don't be ridiculous. There's nothing to be afraid of. Just be confident." He tries to distract himself, to numb the feeling with television and food. But this is like trying to hold a beach ball underwater. The fear, pushed down, just pops up with more force. And now he has a secondary layer of panic. He is panicking about the fact that he is panicking. He is ashamed of his anxiety. By Saturday, he is a nervous wreck and cancels. His shadow, having won the battle once again. But what if he tried the path of radical acceptance? This time, when he feels the knot of fear on Monday, he stops. He sighs down, closes his eyes, and instead of fighting, he drops the rope. He whispers internally, "I see you. Fear, you are welcome here." He doesn't have to like the feeling, but he ceases to be at war with it. He lets the physical sensations of anxiety, the tight chest, the churning stomach, simply be there. Without trying to fix them, he finds that when he stops fighting the fear, it doesn't necessarily vanish. But something miraculous happens. It softens. It loses its terrifying charge. The secondary layer of panic dissolves. He is still afraid, but he is no longer afraid of the fear itself. On Saturday, he is still able to go to the party, carrying his fear with him, not as an enemy to be conquered, but as a quiet, timid companion. He has learned to dance with it. Let us make this a felt experience for you. Right now, this is not just an intellectual concept. It is a bodily practice. I invite you to gently call to mind something that is causing you a low level of discomfort. Perhaps a mild worry about a future event, or a lingering irritation from an interaction earlier today. Do not choose your biggest trauma. Just a small, manageable emotion. Now, close your eyes if that feels comfortable, and scan your body. Where does this emotion live? Do you feel it as a tightness in your throat? A hollowness in your chest? A knot in your solar plexus? Find its physical location. Our instinct is to tense up around this sensation, to create an internal armor against it. I want you to do the opposite. Consciously soften the muscles around the physical sensation. Imagine you are creating space. A warm, open field around this feeling. Now, I begin to breathe into it, not a forceful breath to blast it away, but a gentle, kind breath. Imagine your breath is carrying oxygen and compassion directly to that tight spot. With each exhale, soften even more. As you do this, you can offer it a silent message. Something like, "This is welcome here," or "I can be with this." Simply allow it to be. You are not trying to make it go away. You are just dropping the rope. You are letting the monster sit there. And you are realizing that without your resistance, it is not so monstrous after all. You can open your eyes when you are ready. What you have just done is the core practice of the dance. It is the moment-by-moment practice of meeting your experience with acceptance rather than aversion. This is how you reclaim the vast amounts of energy you have been wasting in your internal war. This is how you find peace. Not by creating a perfect, problem-free inner world, but by learning to be the calm, spacious awareness in which all weather patterns, storms and sunshine, can come and go. This acceptance, on this dropping of the rope, creates a sacred pause. It creates a space of quiet and stillness where a new possibility can emerge. For once you have stopped fighting your shadow, once you have allowed it to simply be, you can finally turn to it, look it in the eye, and ask the question that will unlock its greatest secrets. The question we will explore next. What is it that you truly want? Having dropped the rope of resistance, a quiet space has been created. In this stillness, for the first time, you are not at war with your shadow. You are simply sitting with it, present to its existence without judgment. This is the sacred space in which a new relationship can be born. One based not on fear, but on curiosity. We are now ready to lean in and ask the most transformative question of this entire journey. What is it that you actually want? We have operated our entire lives under the assumption that the devil inside is malicious, that its purpose is to hurt us, to hold us back, to ensure our misery. But this is the fundamental misunderstanding that has kept us locked in a feudal war. The single most important secret you will ever learn about your shadow is this: its intention is never, ever to harm you. Its ultimate, unwavering goal is to protect you. Every single act of self-sabotage, every whisper of the inner critic, every surge of negative emotion is, at its core, a misguided attempt to keep you safe. Your devil is not a villain. It is a profoundly loyal, deeply loving, but severely outdated and clumsy bodyguard. It is a guardian who means well, but whose methods are causing collateral damage. Imagine your inner shadow is like a guard dog living in the yard of your psyche. This dog is hypervigilant, born of the difficult and sometimes dangerous terrain of your past. Because of its history, it perceives threats everywhere. So, it barks furiously at the mailman, who is trying to deliver you good news. It snarls at a friendly stranger who just wants to admire your garden. It digs holes all over the lawn, making it impossible to walk. From the outside, it looks like a bad dog. It seems aggressive, destructive, and chaotic. A reactive owner, frustrated with the behavior, might yell at the dog, chain it up, or even consider getting rid of it. This is how we have been treating our own shadow. We punish it. We try to chain it in the basement of our consciousness, and we wish it would just go away. But a wise owner would see something different. A wise owner would look past the barking and the snarling and ask, "Why is this dog so scared?" They would recognize that the aggression is not the root cause. It is the symptom. The root cause is fear. The dog's deepest intention is not to destroy the yard, but to protect the house at all costs. It is doing the only thing it knows how to do to keep its beloved owner safe. Our mission now is to become wise owners of our own inner guard dogs, to look past the destructive behaviors and understand the loving, protective intention that lies beneath. Let us decode some of the shadow's most common strategies. Take fear. For instance, that wave of panic you feel before speaking in front of a group. The shaming question is, what's wrong with me? Why am I so weak? The compassionate, curious question is, what is this fear trying to protect me from? And the answer is profound. It is trying to protect you from the ancient, tribal threat of public shame, which in our evolutionary past could lead to being ostracized and left to die. Your shadow, in its primitive wisdom, would rather you have a small, quiet life than risk the psychic death of rejection, the fear of intimacy that keeps you pushing love away. Its intention is to protect you from the devastating pain of abandonment or betrayal that you may have experienced as a vulnerable child. It believes a lonely fortress is safer than an open heart. Now consider anger. We are taught that anger is a destructive, negative emotion. But this is only half the story. The destructive expression of anger is the shadow's clumsy method. But the raw energy of anger itself is perhaps the most powerful guardian of your soul. Anger is the guardian of your boundaries. It rises up like a loyal soldier when a value has been transgressed. When your sovereignty has been challenged, that flash of rage you feel when someone belittles you is not a flaw. It is a sacred signal that says, you are worthy of respect. The frustration that boils when you see injustice is not a sin. It is the voice of your own integrity. The shadow's method might be to lash out, but its hidden need is for you to stand up, to speak your truth, and to honor your own worth. Even the emotions we find most shameful have a positive intention. Sadness is not a weakness to be overcome. It is a vital part of our emotional ecosystem. It is a process of cleansing and release, a signal that we have experienced a loss and are in need of rest, comfort, and healing. To deny sadness is to deny the healing it offers. And what of envy? That corrosive feeling we dare not admit to having. Envy is a messenger from your unlived life. When you feel a sharp pang of envy, looking at someone else's success, their loving relationship, their creative expression, that feeling is a distorted compass. Your shadow is pointing its finger and saying, that is something your soul craves. That is a potential that is dormant within you. Instead of stewing in the toxic feeling, you can learn to thank it for the information. You can ask, what is this envy showing me about my own deepest desires? Suddenly, envy is transformed from a poison into a map, guiding you back to your own authentic path. This is the great secret. Fear just wants you to be safe. Anger just wants you to be respected. Sadness just wants you to heal. Envy just wants you to fulfill your potential. The methods are flawed, but the intentions are pure gold. This understanding allows us to replace the shaming question. What is wrong with me with the transformative question that unlocks everything? The next time a difficult emotion or a self-sabotaging urge arises, I invite you to pause, to breathe, and to ask it one of these questions. What are you trying to protect me from? What is the positive intention behind this feeling? Or simply, what do you need? You are no longer yelling at the guard dog. You are kneeling down, looking it gently in the eyes, and asking, what has you so scared? My friend, what do you need to feel safe? When you do this, you are no longer its adversary. You are its loving partner. You are signaling to that scared, primitive part of your psyche that you are finally here. You are finally listening. You are the wise owner who has come to retrain the dog not with punishment, but with love. You can say to your fear, thank you for trying to keep me safe. I see you. I hear you. But I am an adult now, and I can handle this. I will keep us both safe. You can say to your anger, thank you for showing me where my boundaries are. I will honor your message and I will speak my truth clearly and calmly. You are not indulging the shadow's destructive behavior. You are honoring its underlying need and consciously choosing a more mature, effective way to meet that need yourself. You have listened to the devil's request, and you have discovered it is not a demand for your soul, but a simple, childlike plea for safety, for respect, for love. And now that you are its ally, now that you are on the same team, you can begin the most exciting part of this journey. You can begin the work of sacred alchemy, the process of taking the raw, chaotic, leaden energy of the shadow and consciously transforming it into the gold of your own power and liberation. We have arrived at the heart of the dance, the sacred space where transformation truly occurs. We have acknowledged our shadow. We have understood its history, and we have learned to hear its hidden, protective needs. Now, we move from understanding to action. We step into the role of the alchemist. The ancient alchemists spoke of turning lead into gold. This was always understood by the mystics, not as a literal chemical process, but as a profound metaphor for the inner work of the human soul. The lead is the prima materia, the raw, heavy, dense, and dark material of our unconscious psyche. Our shadow. The gold is the enlightened self, the integrated soul, radiant, valuable, and whole. The process of turning one into the other is the alchemy of integration. This is not about destroying the lead or getting rid of it. The alchemist understood that the gold was hidden within the lead all along. The work was simply to purify and transform what was already there. Your power, your creativity, your deepest peace, and your most authentic self are not things you need to acquire. They are hidden within the very shadows you have feared. Our task now is to learn the sacred processes for releasing that gold. The first great alchemical operation is the process of owning your projections. For years, you have been unknowingly giving away your gold to others. Every time you project a quality, good or bad, onto another person with great emotional intensity, you are outsourcing a part of yourself. The practice of integration is the practice of consciously taking it back. Let us begin with the negative projections, the things that trigger your judgment. The next time you find yourself intensely irritated by someone's arrogance, perform this alchemical operation, pause, and instead of stewing in judgment, ask yourself the question, where is that arrogance in me? This may be difficult to accept at first, but dive deeper. Perhaps it's not that you are arrogant, but that you have a disowned part of you that secretly longs to be more self-confident. A part that was shamed into being small. By judging their arrogance, you are attacking the reflection of your own forbidden desire. The alchemical act is to say, I reclaim this part of me. I give myself permission to own my own worth and to shine more brightly. Now consider the positive projections. Your intense admiration for others. That person you admire for their incredible courage. The alchemical operation is to ask, where is that courage in me? Their courage is a mirror, showing you the dormant hero within your own soul. Instead of simply admiring them from afar, you say, thank you for showing me my own potential for courage. I reclaim this quality as part of my own being. With every projection you reclaim, you become more whole. You stop being a fragmented soul, seeing itself in 1,000 scattered mirrors. And you begin to gather the pieces back into a unified, powerful whole. You are taking back your gold. The second alchemical operation involves the direct channeling of dark energy. Your shadow emotions are not poison. They are raw, undifferentiated power, like a wild river. Their untamed energy can be destructive, but once harnessed by a dam and channeled through turbines, that same energy can power an entire city. Your work as an alchemist is to build the dam of conscious awareness and the turbines of intention. Let us start with anger. The raw, untamed river of anger floods out as destructive rage, sharp words, and bitter resentment. But once you have heard its message, a boundary has been crossed. You can harness it. You can build a dam by taking a conscious breath instead of reacting. Then, you can channel that immense energy through the turbines of intention. You can use it to have a calm, firm conversation where you clearly state your boundaries. You can use it to fuel your passion for social justice, fighting for those whose boundaries are violated. You can channel it into a powerful workout, a creative project, a passionate speech. The lead of raw rage is transformed into the gold of clear, passionate, and protective action. Now consider fear. The wild river of fear is anxiety, paralysis, and panic. But once you hear its message, we need to be safe. You can harness it. You channel that nervous energy not into worry, but into preparation. The fear before a major presentation becomes the fuel to practice one more time. The anxiety about a difficult conversation becomes the motivation to think through your points clearly. The lead of paralyzing anxiety is transformed into the gold of prudence, readiness, and focused awareness. The third, and perhaps most enjoyable, alchemical operation is the use of creative expression as a vessel for transformation. The shadow loves to hide in the abstract realm of the mind, but it loses its terrifying power when given concrete form. You do not need to be a professional artist to be a soul alchemist. You simply need to be willing to play. This is your sacred laboratory. Take your inner critic, that voice of shame and inadequacy. Instead of fighting it, get out a journal and give it the pen. Write a letter from the perspective of your inner critic. Let it rant. Let it rave. Let it state its deepest fears without censorship. In giving it a voice, you separate from it. You see it for what it is. A scared part of you, not the whole truth of you. Take your anger, get a large piece of paper and some paints or crayons, and with the intention of expressing your anger, just let your hand move. Use colors that feel angry. Make shapes that feel angry. Don't try to paint a picture. Just allow the raw energy to flow out of your body and onto the page. You are creating a safe container for a powerful energy. And in doing so, you are externalizing it, seeing it, and releasing its hold on you. You can dance out your sadness. You can write a poem to your fear. Every creative act is an alchemical act. It takes the heavy, internal lead of a shadow emotion and transforms it into the externally expressive gold of a creative work. A beautiful example of this is the story of an artist who was paralyzed by her insecurity. Her inner critic was so relentless that she hadn't been able to finish a painting in years. She lived in a state of creative fear. After learning about shadow work, she decided to stop fighting her critic and start studying it instead. She made a radical choice. Her next project would be a series of portraits of her inner critic. She sat in meditation and asked it to show her its face. In her mind's eye, she saw a small, pinched, gray creature, huddled in a corner and trembling with fear. She began to paint it. As she gave it form, color, and texture, a strange thing happened. Her fear of it began to dissolve, replaced by a surprising wave of compassion. She realized it wasn't a monster. It was a terrified child. She painted it over and over, in different poses, exploring its voice, its history. This series of paintings, born from her deepest shadow, became her most powerful, authentic, and celebrated work. The art world didn't see weakness or insecurity. They saw profound honesty and courage. She had taken the lead of her creative paralysis and transformed it into the most radiant gold of her entire career. This is the goal. This is the promise of integration. The ultimate aim of this alchemical work is not to achieve a state of bland, flawless perfection. It is not to eliminate the devil. The goal is wholeness. The integrated human being is not a saint who feels no anger or fear. The integrated human being is someone who has welcomed their anger and fear back to the family table. The devil is no longer a saboteur locked in the basement. It has been given a seat on your personal board of directors. It may hold the title of Director of Risk Management. And its perspective, while often overly cautious, is now valued. It no longer has to scream to be heard. This inner alchemical work is the most profound journey you can take, but its effects are not limited to your inner world. As you systematically turn your inner lead into gold, you fundamentally change the energetic signature you broadcast to the universe. You are cleaning your house from the inside out. And the universe, which is a great and unfailing mirror, cannot help but reflect that inner transformation back to you in your external reality. We are now ready to explore the powerful and often misunderstood connection between your shadow and the law of attraction. The alchemical work you are doing is not performed in a vacuum. Every shadow you integrate, every projection you reclaim, every ounce of lead you transform into gold causes a powerful ripple. Not just in your inner world, but in the very fabric of the reality you experience. We now arrive at the bridge between the internal and the external, the place where our inner dance dictates the music of our lives. We must speak of the law of attraction. For many, this universal principle has been a source of both fascination and profound frustration. The popular understanding of it, often simplified to the point of caricature, is that if you simply think positive thoughts, create a vision board, and want something badly enough, the universe will deliver it to you like a cosmic vending machine. And so, millions of people have stood in front of their mirrors, affirming, "I am wealthy." While their bank accounts remained empty, they have visualized their perfect partner, only to attract a series of painful and disappointing relationships. The frustration that follows is understandable, and it comes from a single, critical missing piece in the equation. That missing piece is the shadow. The universe does not respond to your fleeting, surface-level, conscious thoughts. The universe responds to your dominant, aggregate, vibrational state of being. And that state of being, your core frequency, is almost entirely determined by the beliefs and emotions held in your subconscious and unconscious mind. The home of your shadow. This is the principle of vibrational mismatch. And it is the hidden reason why the law of attraction seems to fail for so many people. Imagine your being is a powerful radio tower, constantly broadcasting a signal out into the quantum field. Your conscious mind, the part of you that is choosing to listen to this audiobook and set new goals, is the person in the control room, announcing, "We are now broadcasting on frequency 101.1 FM, the station of abundance and joy." But your shadow, the vast and powerful machinery in the basement of the tower, which holds all your core programming about your own worthiness, your fears, and your deepest beliefs about the world, is still calibrated to 88.7 FM, the station of lack and fear. The universe, which is a flawless receiver, isn't confused by this. It doesn't hear the announcer's weak signal. It hears the powerful, deeply embedded broadcast from the machinery. The law of attraction is working perfectly. It is delivering to you experiences, people, and circumstances that are a perfect vibrational match to 88.7 FM. You can't stand in front of the mirror affirming, "I am worthy of a loving relationship," if the machinery in your basement is humming with the repressed energy of a core belief that says, "I am unlovable," or "Intimacy is dangerous." The repressed energy is still active energy. Pushing a belief into the shadow doesn't deactivate it. It just makes it invisible to your conscious mind. It continues to vibrate, sending out its signal 24 hours a day. A silent magnet attracting evidence to prove itself true. Let us revisit the story of the person trying to manifest wealth. Let's call him James. James has read all the books. He has a vision board covered with pictures of luxury cars and tropical islands. Every morning, he recites his affirmations. Money flows to me easily and effortlessly. Yet his reality is a constant struggle. He gets an exciting new client, only to have them back out at the last minute. He receives an unexpected bonus, and the very next week, his car breaks down, requiring a repair that costs the exact amount of the bonus. He feels like the universe is playing a cruel joke on him. In his frustration, He gives up on the external techniques and, inspired by work like this, he decides to look inward. He starts a shadow journal. He asks himself, what are my true, deep-seated beliefs about money and wealthy people? The answers that emerge surprise him. He remembers his father, a kind and hardworking man, constantly saying things like, rich people are all crooks, and money is the root of all evil. He remembers the quiet shame in his family around wanting more than what you had. He uncovers a deep, inherited shadow belief system that equates wealth with being a bad, greedy, and unlovable person. His conscious mind was affirming abundance, but his powerful, lifelong shadow programming was screaming, don't become wealthy. If you do, you will be corrupt, and no one will love you. It is not safe. His shadow, in its misguided attempt to protect him and keep him good, was vetoing every single one of his conscious efforts. It was a perfect vibrational mismatch. This is where we must reframe our entire understanding of negative experiences. The universe is not punishing you when it delivers a circumstance you do not want. It is providing you with feedback. It is acting as a perfect and compassionate mirror, reflecting your own inner state back to you so that you can see it clearly. That critical boss who triggers your deepest feelings of inadequacy is a gift. They are a messenger, sent by the universe to show you the unhealed shadow belief that says, I am not good enough, so that you can finally bring it into the light and perform the alchemy of integration. That partner who is emotionally distant and unavailable is a mirror for your own shadow fear of intimacy, or a reflection of a disowned part of you that is also emotionally unavailable. The repeated financial setbacks are not a curse. They are a diagnostic tool, pointing directly to the hidden beliefs you hold around lack, deservingness, and scarcity. Life is not happening to you. Life is responding from you. Every unwanted circumstance is an invitation to look within and ask, what part of my shadow is broadcasting the signal that attracted this experience into my life? What is this situation here to teach me? What is ready to be healed? This transforms shadow work from a difficult chore into the most potent and effective form of conscious creation you can possibly engage in. It is the ultimate manifestation technique. True manifestation is not about layering positive thoughts on top of a foundation of suppressed fear and shame. That is like painting a crumbling wall without fixing the foundation. It may look better for a little while, but eventually, the decay will show through. True alchemy is about going into the basement and cleaning out the vibrational clutter. It's about rewiring the machinery. When James realized his shadow belief about money, he didn't just try to paper over it with more affirmations. He did the alchemical work. He owned the projection. He channeled the energy. He sat with that young boy part of him who was taught to fear wealth and reassured him. He consciously chose to write a new story, one where it was safe to be both wealthy and a good person. As he did this deep, internal work, his inner broadcast began to change. His conscious desire and his subconscious vibration slowly started to harmonize, and then things began to shift. The client didn't back out. A new, unexpected opportunity appeared. His ideas flowed more freely. He wasn't trying harder. He was simply allowing more because the internal resistance, the shadow's veto, was gone. He was no longer broadcasting on two different frequencies. He was in alignment. This is the power you hold. Your reality is a reflection of your relationship with your own shadow. To change your reality, you must be willing to dance with your devil. You now understand the profound link between your inner state and your outer world. You are not a victim of circumstance. You are the source of it. Now that you possess this knowledge, the next logical step is to learn how to become a master programmer of your own mind. How to write and install a new contract with the universe. One that is based not on fear and lack, but on the integrated power of your whole, authentic self. Having journeyed into the depths of your shadow and begun the alchemical process of integration, you now understand that your reality is a direct reflection of your inner vibrational state. You have seen how your unconscious beliefs have silently shaped your life. The next logical and empowering step is to become a conscious author of those beliefs. It is time to formally rewrite the contract that your soul has with reality. This is a process that goes far beyond mere positive thinking. In fact, we must first dismantle the flawed structure of traditional affirmations to build something far more powerful and enduring in its place. The common practice of positive affirmations often fails, and can even be counterproductive, because it is based on a strategy of denial. It encourages you to stand in front of a mirror and declare a reality that your entire nervous system knows is untrue. When you are riddled with anxiety and you tell yourself, "I am calm and serene," you create an internal war. Your conscious mind is saying one thing, while your shadow, the part of you that is genuinely feeling the anxiety, feels ignored, invalidated, and dismissed. This dissonance is a form of self-betrayal. It's like putting a fresh coat of paint on a wall that is filled with rot. It does nothing to address the underlying issue and only papers over the truth. An integrated self does not deny its truth. It includes it. The most powerful affirmations are not those that ignore the shadow, but those that acknowledge it, honor its protective intention, and then gently, lovingly, declare a new, more expansive truth. Let us construct the architecture of an integrated affirmation. It has three essential components. First, you acknowledge the shadow's feeling or its protective intention. Second, you offer a bridge of compassion or gratitude. Third, you declare the new, integrated reality you are choosing to embody. Let's see how this works. The traditional affirmation for fear is, "I am fearless." It is a lie, and your system knows it. The integrated affirmation sounds like this: "I acknowledge the part of me that is feeling fear, and I thank it for working so hard to keep me safe. From this place of safety, I am now choosing to move forward with courage and trust in my own resilience." Can you feel the difference? The first is a battle. The second is a partnership. Let's take unworthiness. The traditional affirmation is, "I am worthy." For someone with a deep shadow of unworthiness, this can feel impossible to say with any conviction. The integrated affirmation would be, "I embrace the part of my history where I learned to feel unworthy in order to survive. I see that this was a protection. I am now consciously choosing to remember and embody the inherent, unshakable worth that has been my truth all along." You are not fighting the old feeling. You are lovingly subsuming it into a larger truth. For anger, instead of the denial of, "I am peaceful," try the integrated power of, "I feel the immense energy of my anger, and I honor its message about what is important to me. I now channel this passion into creating healthy boundaries and speaking my truth with clarity, strength, and love." These are not just words. They are declarations of integration. They are honest. They are compassionate. And because of that, they are profoundly powerful. To give this practice even more weight, I invite you to engage in a sacred ritual: the writing of a new life contract. Take out a pen and paper and create a formal document, a manifesto for your integrated self. You can structure it with headings. Under one heading, "Old beliefs I am now lovingly retiring." You can list the shadow beliefs you have uncovered. For example, the belief that I must be perfect to be loved, or the belief that it is not safe to be vulnerable. Then, you thank these beliefs for their service in protecting you, and you formally declare their retirement. Under a new heading, "Truths I am now embodying," you write your new, integrated affirmations. This is the core of your new contract. Finally, under a heading like, "Intentions from a place of wholeness," you can state your desire for your life, but framed from a new energy. This brings us to a crucial distinction. A goal set from a place of lack says, "I need to find a partner so I won't be lonely anymore." An intention from a place of wholeness says, I intend to cultivate a life so full of my own love, joy, and passion that it naturally attracts a partner who is a vibrational match to that wholeness. A goal from lack says, I must make more money because I am terrified of scarcity. An intention from wholeness says, I intend to share my unique gifts with the world in a way that creates immense value for others and generates abundant prosperity for myself and my family. The actions may look similar, but the energy behind them is the difference between a desperate struggle and a joyful dance. This is where we connect to the deep mystical power of this statement. I am. Teachers like Neville Goddard taught that these two words are the name of God, the creative force of the universe, and that whatever you attach to them with genuine feeling, you command into existence. The problem has always been that we couldn't genuinely feel it. The shadow wouldn't allow it. But after doing the work of integration, your I am statements are no longer wishful thinking. They are declarations of a truth you have earned. Consider the story of a woman named Sarah, who desperately wanted a loving partner. For years, she tried affirmations like, I am attracting my soulmate, but her words felt hollow, because her deep shadow belief, born from a lonely childhood, was I am alone. That was her true, vibrational I am. And so the universe dutifully delivered more experiences of being alone. Frustrated, Sarah turned inward. She stopped the affirmations and started doing her shadow work. She sat with the feeling of loneliness. She invited that lonely little girl, part of her, to speak. She journaled from its perspective. She felt its pain. She offered it the compassion it never received. She radically accepted her loneliness instead of trying to run from it. In doing so, she integrated it. The lonely little girl was no longer a saboteur. She was a cherished part of Sarah's whole self. It was only from this place of inner wholeness that Sarah could finally, authentically, step into the feeling of a new I am. Her state of being shifted from I am alone and need someone to I am loved. I am whole. I am complete. Right now. By myself. This was not an affirmation she was repeating. It was a state she was living from. She started dating herself, treating herself with the love and respect she had once hoped to get from a partner. She filled her life with her own passions. Her energy changed from one of needy grasping to one of radiant self-love. And of course, living from this state of I am loved, she soon attracted a wonderful partner who was not there to fill a void, but to be a mirror to the love she had already found within herself. That is the power of rewriting your contract from the inside out. You are no longer asking the universe for something you lack. You are declaring the truth of who you have chosen to become. You have written the new code. You have drafted the new architectural blueprints for your life, founded upon the unshakable bedrock of your whole, integrated self. The ink is now dry on this sacred contract. It is time to move from intention to action. It is time to pick up the hammer and begin to build. It is time to step onto the dance floor of life and begin to move your body in a way that embodies this new, magnificent truth. You have walked the inner landscape of your soul. You have faced the uninvited guest, learned its history, heard its needs, and rewritten the very contract of your being. You have performed the sacred alchemy of turning your lead into gold. You are now standing in possession of a priceless blueprint, a detailed plan for a new life built on a foundation of wholeness and self-love. But a blueprint, no matter how beautiful, has never housed a family. An architect's drawing, no matter how brilliant, has never provided shelter from the storm. There comes a point where planning must become action, where intention must become embodiment. This is that moment. This is the part of the dance where you actually begin to move. All the inner work you have done has been the preparation, the stretching, the learning of the choreography in your mind. Now you must step onto the dance floor of your daily life and allow the music to play. Action is the final, essential ingredient of integration. It is the fire that forges the inner gold of your intention into the solid, tangible reality of your experience. The universe meets you at the point of action. This requires a new kind of courage. It is the courage to be different. Specifically, to be different from the person you were yesterday. As you begin to embody your new, integrated self, you will be called to make choices that are unfamiliar, to speak in a voice that feels new in your own throat, to take actions that your old self would have deemed impossible. And this will feel uncomfortable. It must. Discomfort is the price of admission to a new reality. The most challenging part of this is that your new way of being will almost certainly disappoint the old version of you. And it may also disappoint the people in your life who were very comfortable and familiar with that old you. The people pleaser who learns to say no will disappoint the person who was used to always getting a yes. The quiet one who finds their voice will disrupt the dynamic of the room. The person who always put themselves last, who now carves out time for their own well-being, will upset the expectations of those who relied on their self-neglect. You must be willing to trade the comfort of old patterns for the vibrant, authentic, and sometimes messy reality of your own truth. You must be willing to let go of who you were, for who you are becoming. This does not mean you must bulldoze your life and start from scratch. That kind of drastic change is often the ego's attempt to hijack a spiritual process. The true dance of embodiment begins not with a giant leap, but with a single, conscious, new step. Your mission is not to change everything at once, but to change one small thing. Today, let's make this practical. If your old pattern, born of a shadow of unworthiness, was to stay silent in meetings even when you had a great idea, your one new step is to raise your hand and share one thought, not to give a perfect speech, just to speak. If your old pattern, born from a people-pleasing shadow, was to immediately say yes to any request, your one new step is to say, "Let me check my calendar and get back to you." That small pause is a revolution. It creates a space between the request and your response. A space where you can consult your new inner contract. If your old pattern, born from a shadow of self-neglect, was to work through lunch every day, your one new step is to block out 15 minutes. Leave your desk and take a walk outside. No matter what, each of these small, seemingly insignificant acts is a thunderous declaration to your subconscious mind and to the universe. Each action is a vote for the new you. It is physical proof that you are serious about your new contract. This is the true meaning of acting as if. It is not about being fake or pretending to be something you are not. It is a conscious strategy of alignment. It is a dress rehearsal for your becoming. In any given situation, you can pause and ask yourself a powerful question. What would the version of me who is fully integrated, who deeply knows their own worth, and who trusts the flow of life, do right now? You listen for the answer, and then you take that action. Even if it feels scary, you are acting from the state of your future self. This is how you close the gap between the person you have been and the person you are becoming. This acting teaches your body and your nervous system what this new reality feels like. It is one thing to write in your journal, "I am confident and I value my own voice." It is another thing entirely to feel the tremor in your hands, the beating of your heart, and to speak up in the meeting anyway. That embodied experience rewires your brain in a way that 1,000 affirmations cannot. You are providing your body with new evidence, proof that it is safe to be this new version of yourself. Consider the journey of a woman we will call Clara, a classic people pleaser. Through her inner work, she discovered her automatic yes came from a deep shadow fear of abandonment. She wrote a new contract with herself, one based on the I am statement of, "I am sovereign and my needs are valid." One day, a beloved family member called with an unreasonable, last-minute request that would require Clara to cancel her own important plans. The old Clara would have said yes instantly, her stomach churning with resentment. But the new Clara paused. She felt the familiar wave of fear wash over her. The terror that saying no would mean this person wouldn't love her anymore. Instead of being swept away, she practiced her new tools. She acknowledged the fear, whispering internally, Thank you for trying to keep me safe from rejection. Then, she consulted her new contract. She asked herself, what would the sovereign Clara, whose needs are valid, do? The answer was clear, but terrifying. She picked up the phone. Her voice trembled slightly as she said, I love you so much, and I wish I could help, but I won't be able to do that this time. My schedule is already committed. She hung up the phone, her heart pounding. She had a moment of pure panic. But then, something amazing happened. The world did not end. The person, after a moment of surprise, simply said, okay, I understand. And in the quiet aftermath, the fear subsided, replaced by a feeling she had rarely experienced. A profound, solid, and deeply peaceful sense of her own integrity. She felt free. That one small no was the most powerful act of self-love she had ever committed. It was not a thought. It was an action. It was the dance. Every time you choose the new response over the old habit, you are carving a new neural pathway in your brain. You are strengthening the muscle of your integrated self. You are building trust with yourself. Your shadow, that old guard dog, begins to see that these new behaviors do not lead to the catastrophic outcomes it feared. It sees that you can say no and still be loved. It sees that you can be visible and still be safe. And slowly, it begins to relax its hypervigilance. The inner conflict subsides, replaced by a sense of partnership and flow. This new dance of embodiment is liberating, but it is not always easy. As you begin to change your steps, to move with more authenticity and self-respect, you will inevitably alter the flow of the dances you have with everyone else in your life. Some of your partners will be delighted, learning the new steps alongside you. Others may resist, trying to pull you back into the old, familiar rhythm. Your new embodiment naturally illuminates all of your relationships, bringing them onto the dance floor to be re-examined in the light of your newfound truth. And so, we must now turn our attention to one of the most challenging and ultimately rewarding arenas of all, the dance of relationships. As you begin to embody your new, integrated self, you will find that the dance floor of your life is rarely empty. We are relational beings, constantly moving in rhythm with friends, family, colleagues, and intimate partners. It is here, in the intricate and often messy dance of relationships, that our shadow work is put to its most rigorous test. Your relationships are the ultimate spiritual laboratory. They are the advanced yoga class for the soul. Because in the presence of another, especially an intimate partner, there is simply nowhere left to hide. Your shadow, which you might be able to manage in solitude, will inevitably be coaxed out into the light by the very presence of the one you love. And this is not a design flaw of relationships. It is their most sacred and potent feature. It is an invitation to the deepest healing possible. The primary way our shadow wreaks havoc in our relationships is through the mechanism of projection. We almost never see our partner clearly. Instead, we see a screen. And upon that screen, we project the unfinished dramas of our own inner world. We unconsciously cast the people we love in the roles of the people from our past. If you had a critical parent, you will be exquisitely sensitive to any perceived criticism from your partner. Hearing judgment in a simple question like, "Did you remember to take out the trash?" You are no longer reacting to your partner. You are reacting to the ghost of your parent. If you had an unreliable caregiver, you will feel a surge of primal panic when your partner is 10 minutes late, because your shadow has cast them in the role of the one who abandoned you. This is the negative side of projection. But we also project our light. We project our disowned divinity, casting our partner in the role of the savior, the one who will finally fix us, heal our wounds, and make us feel whole. We expect them to be the perfect parent we never had, an impossible and unfair burden that crushes the potential for real, authentic love between two whole, Imperfect people. This dynamic of projection is what creates our triggers. Those moments when your partner says or does something seemingly small that ignites a disproportionately large emotional fire within you. Our common reaction is to blame our partner. To say, "You made me feel this way," but an integrated perspective understands that our partner did not create the fire. They simply, and often accidentally, stumbled upon a hidden cache of gunpowder that was already there. That gunpowder is your unhealed wound, your unintegrated shadow. A trigger is a sacred messenger. It is a gift from the universe, delivered by your partner, that points with perfect accuracy to the exact location of your next piece of inner work. The intense emotional reaction is your shadow's way of screaming, "Here, this spot is still tender. This part of me still believes it is in danger." The invitation is to make a revolutionary shift. From blaming your partner for the trigger, to thanking the situation for the revelation. Instead of turning on your partner in anger, you can learn to turn toward yourself with curiosity, asking, "Wow, that was a huge reaction. What old story did that just touch on? What younger part of me just got activated?" This is the beginning of transforming your relationship from a battlefield into a healing sanctuary. This transformation is built on the foundation of radical responsibility, which is most powerfully expressed in the way we communicate. We must learn to trade the language of blame for the language of ownership. Let's look at an example. The language of blame sounds like this. "You make me so angry when you ignore me and look at your phone while I'm talking." This is an accusation. It immediately puts the other person on the defensive and starts a fight. The shadow is projecting the role of the one who ignores me onto the partner and attacking them for it. The language of radical responsibility, inspired by practices like nonviolent communication, sounds completely different. It would sound like this: "When I am talking and I see you looking at your phone, I feel a story of sadness and anger come up in me. Because it touches on my old fear of not being important. I'm feeling disconnected, and I would love to feel connected with you." Can you feel the radical shift? You are not blaming them for your feeling. You are taking complete ownership of your emotional reaction and its roots in your own history. You are simply stating the observation, your feeling, and your need. You are replacing accusation with vulnerable revelation. This language doesn't guarantee your partner will respond perfectly, but it replaces a certain fight with a profound opportunity for connection and healing. This leads us to a universal truth. We attract our energetic match. As long as your unhealed shadow is running your life, you will unconsciously attract partners who are a perfect vibrational match to your wounds. This is not a punishment. It is the law of attraction working with perfect precision. If you have a deep shadow fear of being abandoned, you will find yourself drawn to partners who are emotionally unavailable or commitment phobic, creating the very scenario your shadow fears most, thus proving itself right. If you have a shadow belief that you must earn love by fixing people, you will attract fixer-uppers, partners who need saving, ensuring you are always trapped in a cycle of giving and never receiving. This is the devil in our relationships. The way our own unconscious patterns create self-fulfilling prophecies. But the reverse is also true. As you do the inner work, as you integrate your shadow and heal the core wound, your point of attraction changes. As you learn to give yourself the love you need, you stop broadcasting the frequency of needy and start broadcasting the frequency of whole. As you heal your fear of abandonment, you stop being a vibrational match to people who will abandon you. Consider a couple named Mark and Sarah. They are trapped in a painful cycle. Sarah sees Mark as distant and withholding. Mark sees Sarah as controlling and needy. Their fights are constant. From a shadow perspective, they are perfect partners. Mark grew up in an enmeshed, chaotic family where he felt suffocated. So his shadow's deepest need is for space and freedom. Sarah grew up with emotionally distant parents. So her shadow's deepest need is for connection and reassurance. They are both unconsciously trying to use each other to heal their childhood wounds. Sarah's attempts to connect feel like suffocation to Mark's shadow. Mark's attempts to get space feel like abandonment to Sarah's shadow. They are both reacting to ghosts. Their healing begins when they learn to see this. They realize they are not fighting with each other. They are watching their wounded inner children fight. Instead of blaming each other, they learn to speak for their shadows. Sarah can learn to say, "The little girl in me, who felt invisible, is feeling scared right now and needs to know you're here." Mark, instead of seeing a controlling woman, can now see a scared little girl and respond with compassion. He can say, "I'm here. I'm not going anywhere." Likewise, Mark can learn to say, "The part of me that felt suffocated as a boy is feeling overwhelmed and needs some quiet time to recharge." Sarah, instead of seeing a rejecting man, can now see a little boy who needs space and respond with understanding. "I hear you. Take all the time you need." They stop being adversaries and become allies in each other's healing. They learn to dance with each other's devils, learning to read the hidden language of your relationships. To see the shadows' needs beneath the surface of conflict is a profound spiritual practice. It hones your awareness and deepens your compassion. As you become a master of this intricate, interpersonal dance, you will find that your intuition sharpens in all areas of your life. You are becoming more sensitive to the subtle energies and communications that are always flowing around you. You have learned to find the meaning in your partner's triggers. And now you are ready to learn how to find the meaning in the universe's whispers. You are ready to look beyond the human dance floor and begin to read the cosmic choreography of signs, symbols, and synchronicities. As you become more fluent in the inner language of your own psyche and the subtle emotional language of your relationships, you will begin to notice something extraordinary. You will realize that you are part of a much larger conversation, a constant and intricate dialogue with the universe itself. The process of integrating your shadow does more than just bring you inner peace. It fine-tunes your awareness, making you sensitive to the cosmic choreography that is always unfolding around you. The universe is not a silent, empty void punctuated by random events. It is a living, breathing field of intelligence, and it is always speaking to you. Its language is not one of words, but of symbols, patterns, and meaningful coincidences. Your task, as a dancer in this grand ballroom of life, is to learn to read these signs, not as mere superstition, but as loving guidance from your greatest dance partner. The primary language of the universe is synchronicity. This term, coined by the great psychoanalyst and your guide in this shadow work, Carl Jung, describes a coincidence that is so meaningful it feels like more than just chance. It's when the inner world and the outer world align in a way that gives you a chill, a jolt of recognition. It's thinking of a friend you haven't spoken to in a decade, and having them call you an hour later. It's struggling with a specific problem, and then opening a book to a random page that contains the exact answer you were looking for. These are not just random accidents. Jung called this an causal connecting principle, a sign that you are in alignment with the flow of life, that your inner state is harmonizing with the outer reality. The universe also communicates through symbols and archetypes. You might notice a recurring animal that seems to cross your path repeatedly during a time of major life transition. You might see a specific sequence of numbers, like 1111 or 444, appearing on clocks, license plates, and receipts so frequently that it defies probability. These are like winks from the cosmos, nudges to pay attention. Even challenges and obstacles are a form of communication. A closed door, a project that just won't get off the ground, no matter how hard you push. A no from a source you desperately wanted. A yes from these are not necessarily punishments. Often, they are a form of divine protection. A course correction from the universe, steering you away from a path that was not for your highest good. So how do we translate this mystical language? This is the most important part. There is no universal dictionary of signs. The key to understanding the cosmic choreography is not an external book of symbols, but your own internal resonance. Your intuition, a hawk, might be a sign of clear vision to one person, while to another, it might be a reminder of a beloved grandparent. The meaning is not in the object itself, but in the personal, significant feeling it ignites within you. Your intuition is the translator. It is the gut feeling, the deep, quiet knowing, the aha moment that says, "This means something." This is why your shadow work is so profoundly important. Your intuition is like a sensitive radio receiver, designed to pick up the subtle frequencies of cosmic guidance. But your unhealed shadow, your repressed fears, anxieties, and limiting beliefs creates immense amounts of static. This static makes it difficult, if not impossible, to hear the clear signal. When you are in the grip of fear, every sign can look like a confirmation of impending doom. When you are operating from a place of desperate need, you can twist any coincidence into a promise that you'll get what you want. But as you do the alchemical work of integration, you are cleaning this inner static. As your shadow is embraced and its fears are calmed, the receiver becomes clear. You can more easily distinguish the quiet, calm, expansive voice of true intuition from the loud, frantic, contracting voice of fear. This leads to a crucial distinction you must learn to make as a reader of signs: the difference between looking for confirmation and being open to guidance. The ego, driven by the shadow's desires and fears, desperately seeks confirmation. It has already decided what it wants, and it hunts for signs to validate its choice. I really want to buy this expensive car, even though I can't afford it. Oh look, a green light. The universe wants me to have it. This is not guidance. This is confirmation bias. And it is a trap. The integrated self, on the other hand, approaches the universe with a sense of open-handed curiosity. It asks not for confirmation of its own agenda, but for guidance toward the highest good. The prayer is not, "Please give me a sign that this is the right thing," but rather, "Please show me the way. Guide me toward what I need for my soul's growth." Even if it's not what my ego wants, the response to true guidance often feels different. It lands with a sense of peace, clarity, and a quiet rightness, even if the path it points to is challenging. Let's imagine a woman named Amelia, who is stuck in a prestigious but soul-crushing job in finance. Through her shadow work, she has uncovered a deep fear of failure and scarcity, inherited from her family. Her heart is pulling her to leave her job and start a small business as a potter, a passion she has nurtured in secret. Her rational mind, fueled by her shadow, is terrified. She asks the universe for a sign, not demanding an answer, but simply asking for encouragement, for a sign that she is not crazy. The following week, the cosmic choreography begins. While browsing a used bookstore, a dusty volume of poetry falls off a high shelf and lands at her feet. She picks it up, and it has fallen open to a poem about the courage it takes to shape one's own life, just as a potter shapes clay. A few days later, sitting at a cafe, she overhears a conversation at the next table where a woman is joyfully describing how she left her law career to become a landscape designer and has never been happier. Later that week, while walking in a park, she sees a young girl chasing a monarch butterfly. For Amelia, the butterfly has always been a deeply personal symbol of transformation and emergence. The universe isn't making the decision for her, but it is sending a cascade of loving affirmations. A chorus of whispers saying, "You are on the right path. We see you. Keep going." These synchronicities give her the final ounce of courage to take the leap, not because she is certain of the outcome, but because she feels she is a partner in a cosmic dance, supported and guided by a force larger than her own fear. Learning to recognize this cosmic choreography infuses your life with a sense of magic and enchantment. You begin to understand that you are never truly alone. You are in a constant, loving dialogue with the intelligence of life itself. You feel seen. You feel heard. and you feel guided. But even in the most divinely choreographed ballet, the dancers are still human. There will be moments when you lose your footing, when you forget the steps, when you stumble and fall out of sync with the music. What do we do then? What happens when, despite all our work, our shadow seems to take the lead once more and pull us back into an old, painful rhythm? To be a true master of this dance, we must learn not only how to soar, but also how to fall. We must now learn how to handle the inevitable setbacks and regressions on this journey with radical self-compassion and grace. You are on the journey. You have done the work. You have faced your shadow, learned its language, and begun the sacred dance of integration. You are feeling a new sense of clarity, of wholeness. You are stepping onto the dance floor of your life with new, intentional movements. And then, it happens. You stumble. You react with that old, familiar anger. You fall back into the pit of procrastination you thought you had climbed out of. You hear the voice of the inner critic, which had been quiet for so long, suddenly shouting with its old, venomous authority. In that moment, a wave of shame washes over you, and a new, more insidious voice whispers, "See, it was all a fraud. You haven't changed at all. You failed." It is here, in this moment of perceived failure, that the most important work is done. It is here that you learn the difference between a novice dancer and a true master. So let us speak now of the grace of stumbling and the art of handling setbacks on this path. First, you must absorb this truth into the very marrow of your bones. Healing is not a straight line. Personal growth is not a steady, linear ascent to a mountaintop of perfection. It is a spiral. It is a dance. You will circle back to the same themes, the same patterns, and the same wounds again and again throughout your life. But here is the secret: each time you return, you do so from a higher level of awareness. A setback is not a sign that you have failed or gone back to square one. It is an integral, necessary, and unavoidable part of the curriculum. It is a sign that the process is working, not that it has broken. Expect to stumble. Welcome the stumbles, for each one is an opportunity for a deeper, more profound level of healing than was available to you before. Let us use the analogy of learning a new, intricate dance. In the beginning, you are clumsy, self-conscious, but you practice. You learn the basic steps, the core movements of acknowledgement, acceptance, and integration. You start to get the hang of it. You can move through a few sequences with grace and confidence. You feel a sense of progress, of mastery. It is often at this exact point, right when you are feeling your most confident, that the shadow makes its most dramatic reappearance. This is what we might call the devil's last stand. Your integrated self is becoming the new default operating system. And your shadow, that old, loyal bodyguard, senses that its role is diminishing. It panics. It fears its own obsolescence. And so, in a last-ditch effort to prove its necessity, it will hijack your system. It will manufacture a crisis. It will magnify a small trigger into a massive catastrophe. It will scream its old, fearful propaganda with the intensity of a dying star. This regression, which feels like a devastating failure, is often the harbinger of your biggest breakthrough. It is the final exam before you graduate to a new level of consciousness. It is the darkness before the dawn. When this stumble happens, when you find yourself on the floor, the wind knocked out of you, your shadow's favorite weapon will be deployed against you. Shame. Shame is the intensely painful feeling of being fundamentally flawed. It is the voice that says, "I am bad." Its purpose is to paralyze you, to convince you to give up, to prove that the old, small, fearful version of you was right all along. You cannot fight shame with logic. You cannot argue with it. There is only one antidote to the poison of shame. And that is the unconditional balm of self-compassion. In the moment you regress, you must learn to meet yourself with the radical kindness you might offer to a small child who has just fallen off their bicycle. You do not scream at the child. "You're pathetic. I knew you couldn't do it." You rush to them. You pick them up. You dust them off. And you say, "It's okay. Sweetheart, that was a tricky spot. You were so brave for trying. Let's take a breath. And when you're ready, we can try again." You must learn to become this loving parent to your own stumbling self. You must cultivate an inner voice that, in the face of failure, says, "It's okay. I fell back into my old pattern. I am human. What can I learn from this?" Compassion breaks the downward spiral of shame and initiates the upward spiral of learning and growth. Let's return to our novice dancer in the studio. They have been practicing a new routine for weeks. Then, in the middle of a sequence, their mind goes blank. They trip over their own feet and stumble into a clumsy heap. They have two choices. The first choice is the way of the shadow. They flush with shame. Their inner critic screams, "You're a terrible dancer. You have no rhythm. Everyone is laughing at you. You should just quit." They storm out of the studio, their dream crushed, convinced they are a failure. The second choice is the way of the master. They fall, and instead of tensing up with shame, they soften. They might even laugh. They take a deep breath, get back up, and say to themselves, "Okay, that transition is still a bit shaky." They see the stumble not as a verdict on their identity as a dancer, but simply as a piece of data. The stumble is a helpful pointer, showing them exactly which part of the dance needs more attention, more practice. The master dancer is not someone who never falls. The master dancer is simply a beginner who has fallen 1,000 times and has learned to get back up with curiosity instead of contempt. Their mastery is not in their perfection. It is in the grace of their recovery. Every time you stumble, every time you regress, you are being given a precious opportunity to go deeper. The pattern that has reappeared is showing you a new layer of itself. Perhaps you thought you had healed your fear of rejection, but a recent setback shows you a much older, deeper root of that fear. One connected to an event in your early childhood you had long forgotten. The stumble did not mean your previous healing was invalid. It meant your previous healing was successful enough to make you strong enough to face this deeper layer. The stumble is an invitation from the universe to a more profound level of integration. So when you fall, I invite you to practice a simple 3-step recovery. First, pause it. Do not react. Do not indulge the inner critic. Just stop and take one conscious breath. Second, acknowledge and accept. Say to yourself, without judgment, "Okay, I just yelled at my kids, even though I promised I wouldn't. That is what happened." You meet reality as it is. Third, ask with curiosity. What was the trigger? Was I tired? Was I hungry? What was the underlying need that I was trying to meet in that clumsy way? What can I do to take better care of myself so this is less likely to happen next time? This process transforms a moment of failure into a moment of invaluable self-discovery. The grace with which you learn to treat yourself in your moments of failure is the truest measure of your spiritual maturity. It is easy to be kind to yourself when things are going well. The real dance is to be kind to yourself when you are on the floor. It is this capacity for self-compassion that builds true, unshakable resilience. This resilience becomes the steady, foundational rhythm beneath the often chaotic and unpredictable melody of your life. It is a rhythm of deep and abiding peace, a peace that is not dependent on a perfect performance. We must now explore how to cultivate this inner music, this profound silence that can be found even amidst the noise and the stumbles of our ongoing dance. In the heart of every dancer, amidst the flurry of steps and the swirl of the music, there exists a point of perfect stillness. It is the silent, unmoving center from which all powerful and graceful movement originates. Having learned to navigate the inevitable stumbles of your dance with compassion, we now turn to the cultivation of this inner stillness, this profound and unshakable peace. But first, we must completely dismantle our flawed cultural understanding of what peace is. We have been taught to see peace as a destination, a far-off, idyllic state that we will reach only when all our problems are solved, when our bank account is full, when our relationships are perfect, and when the devil inside has been permanently silenced. This is a fantasy, and it is a recipe for perpetual dissatisfaction, because it places the source of our peace outside of ourselves, making it conditional upon an ever-changing and uncontrollable external world. True peace, the kind that can anchor you in the fiercest of life's storms, is not the absence of noise. It is the ability to find the silence within the noise. It is not the absence of problems, but the presence of a deep, internal stillness in the midst of your problems. The most direct path to discovering this inner sanctuary is the ancient practice of meditation. Yet, like the concept of peace, meditation has also been widely misunderstood. Many of you may have tried it, only to give up in frustration, believing you have failed because you could not clear your mind or stop your thoughts. Let me be clear, the goal of meditation is not to stop your thoughts. Trying to stop your thoughts is like trying to stop the clouds from passing in the sky. It is a futile and frustrating struggle against the nature of the mind. The true purpose of meditation is to realize that you are not your thoughts. You are not the clouds. You are the vast, open, and unchanging sky in which the clouds of thought, emotion, and sensation appear and disappear. Meditation is the simple practice of resting as that sky-like awareness. You can begin right now. Simply close your eyes for a moment and bring your attention to the feeling of your breath moving in and out of your body. You don't need to change it. Just feel it. As you though, thoughts will inevitably arise. Your mind will wander. When you notice this, you have not failed. You have succeeded. The moment of noticing is a moment of pure awareness. You gently, and without judgment, acknowledge the thought, and then you guide your attention back to the breath. That is all. Each time you return to the breath, you are strengthening your connection to the silent watcher within, the still point of the turning world. This formal practice is powerful, but peace is not something to be confined to a meditation cushion for 20 minutes a day. The true art is to weave this silence into the very fabric of your noisy, busy life. You can do this by mastering the power of the pause. This is the practice of microdosing peace throughout your day. It is the simple, radical act of taking 1 to 3 conscious breaths before you respond to a stimulus. Before you answer that ringing phone, pause and breathe. Before you reply to that triggering email, pause and breathe. When you feel a wave of anger or anxiety rising, before you act on it, pause and breathe. This tiny gap you create between stimulus and response is the birthplace of your freedom. In that space, you break the hypnotic spell of unconscious reaction. You interrupt the shadow's knee-jerk programming. You reconnect with the calm, sky-like awareness within. And from that place, you can choose your response consciously, rather than reacting blindly. Sprinkling these sacred pauses throughout your day is like a musician returning to the keynote, constantly re-establishing the foundational harmony of their inner state. Let's witness this principle in action through a modern parable. Inspired by the teachings of Eckhart Tolle, imagine a man, we'll call him David, stuck in a complete standstill on the freeway. He is late for an important meeting. His body is tense. His knuckles are white on the steering wheel. His blood pressure is soaring. His mind is a raging storm of angry thoughts. This is a disaster. Why does this always happen to me? Look at that idiot trying to cut in. He is completely lost in the drama, a prisoner in the cell of his own mind. He is suffering. Then, in a moment of grace, he remembers a teaching about presence. He realizes the futility of his resistance. Fighting the traffic jam in his mind is not moving the cars. He decides to try something different. He drops the story. He lets go of the fight. He takes a deep, conscious breath, and he brings his awareness into the present moment. He feels the texture of the leather on the steering wheel beneath his fingertips. He listens, without judgment, to the low hum of his car's engine. He feels the gentle rise and fall of his own chest as he breathes. He looks out the window and notices, for the first time, the dramatic shape of the clouds against the deep blue sky. In that moment, something extraordinary happens. The external situation has not changed one iota. The traffic is still at a dead stop. But David's internal world has transformed completely. The anger has dissolved. The stress has vanished. He is no longer suffering. He is simply present, sitting in his car, breathing, seeing, feeling. He has found the silence within the noise. This is the power you hold in every moment. Peace is always just one conscious breath away. You can also find a powerful gateway to this peace by connecting with the natural world. Nature is a great harmonizer. When you step into a forest, sit by the ocean, or even just watch the clouds from a city park bench, you are attuning your own nervous system to a rhythm that is deeper, slower, and wiser than your own frantic ego. The rustle of leaves in the wind, the patient unfolding of a fern, the immense, silent presence of a mountain. These things speak to a part of you that exists beyond thought. They remind you of a timescale that is not measured in deadlines and appointments, but in seasons and millennia. Spending time in nature is a form of effortless meditation. It automatically quiets the inner chatter and reconnects you to the deep, silent music of the earth. Through these practices, meditation, the sacred pause, connecting with nature, you are not just creating fleeting moments of calm. You are actively building an inner sanctuary. You are cultivating a core of silence within yourself that is always present, always available, no matter what storms may be raging in your life or in your mind. This silence is the deep, continuous bass note that holds the entire song of your life together. The chatter of your inner devil, the challenges of your day, the joys and sorrows. These are the melody. The melody is always changing, sometimes beautiful, sometimes dissonant, but with a foundation of inner silence. The entire song is held in a container of profound peace. This silent, peaceful core becomes your anchor. It becomes a source of unshakable strength and resilience. And it is from this foundation of deep inner peace that you can finally gather the courage to turn and face the ultimate shadow. The one that lurks beneath all other fears. The one that has been driving the frantic activity of your life since the day you were born. From this place of peace, we are now ready to learn how to dance with our own mortality. From the unshakable foundation of inner peace that you have so diligently cultivated, you now possess the stability and the courage to turn and face the final shadow. This is the great devil that lurks behind all other devils. The primal fear that has been secretly choreographing the frantic dance of your life from the very beginning. It is the fear of the end, the fear of death. In our modern world, we have become experts at denying this fundamental reality. We hide death away in hospitals and funeral homes. We worship youth and fight the natural process of aging with a desperate ferocity. We construct lives of busy distraction, all in an attempt to avoid contemplating our own impermanence. But in the dance of integration, we hide from nothing. We must understand that most of our everyday fears are simply branches of this one great root. The fear of failure is the fear of the death of an identity. The fear of rejection is the fear of social death. The fear of public speaking is the fear of being ostracized from the tribe, which once meant literal death. The fear of insignificance is the fear that our life will vanish without a trace. A form of existential death. By having the courage to face the root, we can loosen the grip of its many branches and, in doing so, liberate ourselves to truly live. The key to this profound transformation is a radical reframing. We must learn to see death not as an enemy to be fought, but as a wise and potent advisor. The ancient Stoic philosophers held a practice they called memento mori, which translates to, "Remember, you will die." They would keep a skull on their desk or carry a token in their pocket to serve as a constant reminder of their mortality. The purpose of this was not to be morbid or to plunge themselves into despair. It was the opposite. It was a tool for radical clarification. The awareness of death is like a purifying fire. It burns away everything that is not essential. It strips away the trivial anxieties, the petty grievances, the procrastinated dreams, and the hollow ambitions. It forces you to ask the most important questions. Am I living a life that is true to myself? Or a life that others expect of me? Am I spending my precious, finite moments on things that truly matter? Am I expressing the love I feel? Or am I holding it back for some future that is not guaranteed death? When accepted as an advisor, becomes your most trusted confidant. The one who will always tell you the unvarnished truth about what is truly important. Let us bring this advisor into the room with us right now. With a simple thought experiment, I invite you to imagine, just for a moment, that you have been told you have 1 year left to live. Your health will be fine. But in exactly 1 year, your dance will be over. How would your priorities shift? What activities would you immediately stop doing? What phone calls would you finally make? Now, what if you had 1 month? The clarifying fire burns hotter. The non-essential turns to ash even more quickly. Finally, what if you had only 1 day, 24 hours? What would you do? Who would you be with? What would be the last words you wish to speak? In the face of that ultimate deadline, you realize that most of what we worry about is meaningless. The slights we hold onto, the fears that keep us small, the chase for more status and more stuff. It all dissolves in the profound, simple truth of our finitude. Inviting death to be your advisor is not about waiting until your last day. It is about bringing the clarity of your last day into your life. Right now, to dance with this ultimate shadow. It can also be helpful to gently broaden our perspective beyond the purely physical. Our fear of death is primarily a fear of annihilation. The fear that the I we know will simply cease to exist. While no single belief system can erase this fear, opening our minds to a wider view can soften its edges. We can contemplate our legacy. The idea that our energy lives on in the lives we have touched. Every act of kindness, every moment of shared laughter, every lesson we teach our children creates ripples that continue long after we have left the dance floor. In this way, our dance never truly ends. We can also look to the laws of physics, which state that energy is never created or destroyed, only transformed. It is not an unscientific leap to wonder if the conscious energy that animates us, the essence of who we are, also simply changes form, flowing back into the great cosmic ocean from which it came. For many spiritual traditions, this life is seen as but one chapter in a much larger, eternal story. From this vantage point, death is not a final curtain, but simply a transition between acts. A change of scenery in the soul's epic journey. You do not have to adopt any of these beliefs, but simply by being open to the possibility that there is more to the story than our 5 senses can perceive. You introduce an element of wonder and curiosity that can gently begin to dissolve the raw terror of the unknown. Consider the story of a man named Richard, a powerful CEO who had spent 50 years of his life in a relentless pursuit of more money, more market share, more status. He was driven by a deep, unexamined fear of being a nobody. A fear that was, at its root, a desperate flight from the thought of his own death. Then, at the age of 68, he received a terminal cancer diagnosis. His first reaction was rage, denial, a desperate attempt to fight it as he had fought every business competitor. But the diagnosis was unyielding, and as the initial terror subsided, something else began to dawn on him. In his quiet moments, he began to see the diagnosis not as a curse, but as a terrible gift. For the first time in his life, he was free. He was free from the need to impress, to accumulate, to win. He looked at his vast fortune and realized it could not buy him one more sunset. He called his estranged son, not to talk about the family business, but to say, "I am sorry, and I love you." He sold his collection of luxury cars and took his wife on a simple, quiet trip to the seaside cabin where they had fallen in love 50 years earlier. He spent his final months not in boardrooms, but in his garden, not acquiring assets, but giving away his most valuable possessions: his love, his wisdom, and his forgiveness. His family, who had known him as a distant and demanding patriarch, were now meeting the warm, present, and loving man he had been all along, hidden beneath a lifetime of fear. A few days before he passed, his son said to him, "It feels like we only just got to know you." Richard smiled, a peaceful, knowing smile, and said, "It feels like I only just got to know me." 2. In dancing with his death, Richard finally learned how to live. This is the ultimate paradox. By making peace with the finality of our dance, we begin, for the first time, to truly hear the music. The knowledge that the song will end makes every single note exquisitely precious. The awareness of death does not cast a morbid shadow over life. It illuminates it with a brilliant, poignant light. It moves you from a mindset of someday to a mindset of now. It urges you to love more deeply, to forgive more freely, and to risk more boldly. When you dance with mortality as your partner, you stop taking a single moment for granted. The dance is no longer a frantic march toward a finish line, but a sacred celebration of the present moment. And so, we must now explore how to take this profound, life-altering clarity and infuse our lives, day by day, moment by moment, with this spirit of sacred celebration and unbridled joy. Having danced with the ultimate shadow of mortality, you have received its most profound and paradoxical gift, an urgent and passionate appreciation for the preciousness of life itself. The awareness of the finality of the dance makes you cherish every note of the music. This clarity frees you from the trap of someday, the illusion that your real life will begin at some point in the future when all conditions are perfect. Your life is now. The celebration is now. And so, we move from the sober depths of acceptance to the joyful expression of that freedom. We learn to make the dance not just a work of integration, but a sacred celebration. But just as we had to redefine peace, we must first redefine joy. We have been taught that joy is a reaction to external events. We feel joy when we get the promotion, when we fall in love, when we go on vacation. This makes our joy a fragile and fleeting thing, dependent on circumstances we cannot control. The joy we will now cultivate is different. It is not a reaction. It is a creation. It is a conscious choice, a daily practice, an inner skill that you can develop regardless of your external circumstances. It is the ability to find the music even when the world is noisy. The most powerful practice for cultivating this inner joy is the conscious cultivation of gratitude. Our brains, by design, are not wired for happiness. They are wired for survival. This creates a negativity bias, a natural tendency to scan our environment for threats, problems, and dangers. This is the default mode of our shadow, always on the lookout for what could go wrong. Gratitude is the conscious and deliberate antidote to this programming. It is the active training of your mind to scan for the good, the beautiful, and the things that are working. A consistent gratitude practice literally rewires the neural pathways in your brain, strengthening the connections that perceive positivity and weakening those that fixate on negativity. This is not about denying problems. It is about balancing the scales. You can begin this practice in the simplest of ways. Each night before you sleep, Take out a journal and write down 3 specific good things that happened that day. It could be as grand as a breakthrough in your work, or as simple as the taste of your morning coffee, the warmth of the sun on your skin, or a kind word from a stranger. By consciously searching for and recording these moments, you are training your reticular activating system, the part of your brain that filters information, to start noticing more good during your day. You are telling your brain, "This is important. Show me more of this." There is a timeless Cherokee parable that perfectly illustrates this inner work. An elder is teaching his grandson about life. He says, "A fight is going on inside me. It is a terrible fight, and it is between 2 wolves. One is evil. He is anger, envy, sorrow, regret, greed, arrogance, self-pity, guilt, resentment, inferiority, lies, false pride, superiority, and ego." It continued, "The other is good. He is joy, peace, love, hope, serenity, humility, kindness, benevolence, empathy, generosity, truth, compassion, and faith." The same fight is going on inside you, and inside every other person. 2. The grandson thought about it for a minute and then asked his grandfather, "Which wolf will win?" The old Cherokee simply replied, "The one you feed, every single moment of your day." You are making a choice about which wolf to feed. Worrying about the future is feeding the dark wolf. Replaying old grievances is feeding the dark wolf. Mindless scrolling through social media, comparing your life to others, is feeding the dark wolf. The practice of gratitude is the most nourishing food you can give to the wolf of light. Another powerful way to nourish the wolf of light is to rediscover the lost art of play. As we become adults and embark upon serious paths of self-development, we often forget how to be playful. We become focused on productivity, on healing, on achieving, but play is a vital nutrient for the soul. Play is any activity you engage in purely for the joy of the activity itself, with no other goal or purpose. It is singing off-key in the car. It is kicking a ball around in the park. It is building something with your hands without caring about the outcome. It is being silly with people you love. The shadow, with its heavy burden of fear and self-importance, cannot survive in an atmosphere of true play. The inner critic has no power over you when you are genuinely lost in a state of joyful, purposeless fun. I invite you to think back to your childhood. What did you love to do before you were told you had to be good at it? Did you love to draw, to dance, to explore the woods? Make a commitment to reintroduce a small dose of this purposeless play back into your life. It is a profound act of rebellion against the tyranny of the serious adult and the fearful shadow. Finally, a crucial part of making this journey a celebration is to consciously acknowledge and celebrate your own progress. The shadow will always try to convince you that you are not making any headway, that your stumbles are the whole story. You must counter this with the truth. When you successfully navigate a difficult conversation without losing your center, celebrate it. When you choose a compassionate response to your own mistake, acknowledge that victory. When you feel fear and take the brave action anyway, pause and honor your own courage. This is not about inflating your ego. It is about positive reinforcement. By celebrating these small wins, you are creating a neurological reward for your new behaviors. You are telling your entire system, "This is the way. Let's do more of this." It makes the ongoing work of the dance feel less like a chore and more like a joyful and rewarding adventure of self-discovery. Every time you choose gratitude over complaint, you are feeding the white wolf. Every time you lose yourself in a moment of play, you are feeding the white wolf. Every time you honor a small victory on your path, you are feeding the white wolf. We are not trying to kill or starve the dark wolf. We have learned that suppression only makes it stronger. We are simply, consciously, and joyfully choosing to pour our attention and our energy into nourishing the wolf of light, until its radiance becomes the dominant force in our inner world. This sacred celebration is not reserved for grand occasions. It is found in the fabric of the mundane. It is the practice of savoring the richness of a single bite of food, of truly feeling the warmth of water in the shower, of stopping to appreciate the artistry of a spider's web. It is about bringing a sense of presence and gratitude to the small, ordinary moments that make up the vast majority of our lives. As you consciously feed the wolf of light through these practices of gratitude, play, and celebration, your own inner light begins to shine more brightly, more consistently. This radiant, joyful energy is not just for your own benefit. It becomes a beacon. It naturally illuminates the path ahead. And when you are living from this place of authentic joy, you will often find that the great, perplexing question of your life's purpose begins to answer itself. The dance of joy leads, effortlessly, to the dance of purpose. As you continue to practice the sacred celebration of your own existence, feeding the wolf of light with gratitude and play, your inner world begins to radiate with a new kind of brilliance. This light, your authentic and integrated energy, is not meant to be kept hidden. It is a beacon, and its purpose is to illuminate your unique path in the world. We now arrive at the dance of purpose, the moment where your personal journey of healing blossoms into your unique contribution to the collective. But here again, we must begin by dismantling the old, limiting definitions that have made the idea of purpose feel like a heavy and intimidating burden. We have been taught that purpose is a singular, grand destination, a specific job title, or a monumental achievement you must discover. Like finding a needle in a haystack, this turns the search for purpose into a source of immense anxiety. Another stick for our inner critic to beat us with, whispering, "You haven't found it yet. You're not doing enough." The truth is that purpose is not a what. It is a why. It is not a noun. It is a verb. It is the unique energetic quality that you, and only you, bring to everything you do. Your purpose might be to bring order to chaos. And you could live this purpose as a brilliant accountant, a loving parent who creates a calm home, or a community organizer. Your purpose might be to nurture growth, which you could express as a gardener, a kindergarten teacher, or a venture capitalist who invests in promising new ideas. The what can change throughout your life, but the why, your unique rhythm, remain constant. So where do you find the clues to your unique why? The answer is as profound as it is paradoxical. You find your greatest light in the heart of your deepest darkness. Your purpose is almost always hidden within the very shadow you have spent your life trying to overcome. Your greatest wound contains your greatest gift. The challenges you have faced, the suffering you have endured, the parts of your life that have brought you the most shame. These are not random misfortunes. They are your sacred training ground. They have equipped you with a level of empathy, understanding, and wisdom in a specific area that no one else possesses in quite the same way. Your mess is your message. The person who has danced with the demon of addiction and found the path to recovery is uniquely qualified to guide others through that same hell with a compassion and authority that no textbook could ever provide. The person who has integrated a crippling shadow of unworthiness and learned to truly love themselves can teach the meaning of self-worth with an authenticity that is magnetic. The soul who has navigated the depths of grief can sit with another's sorrow in a way that offers profound comfort. Do not look away from your scars. They are a map. They are the credentials of your soul, proving you are qualified to do your unique work in the world. But how do you translate this awareness into a tangible path? The ego wants a 10-year plan, a clear and logical strategy. The soul, however, reveals your purpose, not in a grand vision, but moment by moment. The method for discovering it is to learn to follow your energetic breadcrumbs. Instead of trying to think your way to your purpose, you must learn to feel your way there. You must become a detective of your own energy. of your own aliveness. Ask yourself these questions. What activities make you lose all track of time? What subjects could you read about or discuss for hours on end? What problem in the world breaks your heart and makes you say, someone should do something about that? What conversations leave you feeling energized and expansive? And which ones leave you feeling drained and contracted? Your joy, your curiosity, your righteous anger. These are not random feelings. They are your soul's internal guidance system. A compass pointing you in the direction of your purpose. The path is not a highway you can see from miles away. It is a dimly lit trail in a forest, and you can only see the next few feet in front of you. Your job is simply to take the next step that feels most alive, to follow the next breadcrumb of energy. In doing so, step by step, the larger path reveals itself to you, not because you planned it, but because you followed the wisdom of your own joyful engagement with life. Let's imagine a man named Leo. For most of his life, Leo was imprisoned by a severe social anxiety shadow. Parties were a nightmare. Meetings at work were torture. And the thought of speaking to a stranger made him physically ill. His world was small and suffocating. He did the deep, courageous work of dancing with this devil. He acknowledged the fear. He traced its roots to a shaming childhood. He learned to offer himself compassion when he stumbled. He slowly, painstakingly, integrated this massive shadow. As he healed, he stopped asking, "How can I be normal like everyone else?" and started asking a new question. What has this immense struggle given me? The answer was clear. It had given him a Ph.D. in the nature of anxiety and loneliness. He understood its nuances, its lies, and its pain from the inside out. He had an idea, a breadcrumb of energy. He decided to start a completely anonymous online forum for others with social anxiety. Just a place where people could share their stories without fear of judgment. He didn't have a business plan. He just felt a pull to create the space he wished he had had in his darkest moments. The forum took off. People from all over the world joined, sharing their struggles and their small victories. Leo found that moderating the forum, writing posts of encouragement, and sharing the tools he had learned made him feel more alive, more energized, and more himself than anything he had ever done. He was in a state of flow. One day, a member of the forum wrote to him, "You have saved my life. You have a real gift for this." In that moment, Leo understood. His purpose was not to overcome his anxiety so he could become a normal person. His purpose was to use his experience with that very anxiety to create healing spaces for others. His wound had become his wisdom. His mess had become his message. When you find this alignment, when the expression of your unique gifts meets a deep need in the world, you enter a state of grace. Living your purpose is not about striving and struggling. It is about aligning and allowing. Your work becomes a form of play. Your contribution to the world and your deepest personal joy become one and the same. This is the ultimate expression of the integrated self. You are no longer a fragmented being, trying to balance a work life and a real life. You are one whole being, and your life becomes your art, your offering to the world. When you are living in your unique rhythm, you tap into a source of energy that feels both personal and universal. It is the joy of your soul finally singing its own unique song. But to be a clear and powerful channel for this purposeful energy, to allow this song to be sung through you without distortion, the instrument itself must be well cared for. Your physical body, the vessel that carries you through this dance, must also be brought into alignment. The inner dance of purpose must be supported and sustained by the physical dance of vitality. We must now turn our attention to the ballroom itself, your body, and explore the profound connection between your integrated mind and your physical well-being. As we journey deeper into the dance of a purposeful life, feeling the surge of energy that comes from true alignment, we must turn our attention to the vessel that makes this all possible. The dance is not an abstract concept. It is a physical, embodied experience. And the ballroom in which this entire, intricate dance of life takes place is your own body. For too long, we in the Western world have treated the body as a machine, a vehicle that carries the real you, your mind. From place to place, we have seen it as separate, something to be controlled, disciplined, and fixed when it breaks. But the body is not a machine. It is a living, feeling, intelligent organism. It is not separate from your mind and emotions. It is the physical manifestation of them. Your body is the stage upon which your inner drama is played out in real time. It is where your biography becomes your biology. This powerful phrase, from medical intuitive Caroline Myss, encapsulates a profound truth. Your life story, with all its joys, traumas, and unresolved conflicts, is not just stored in the non-physical realm of memory. It is written into your tissues, your organs, your muscles, and your cells. The chronic stress from a shadow belief that the world is not safe can manifest as adrenal fatigue and a weakened immune system. The repressed rage you have swallowed for years can contribute to jaw tension, headaches, and high blood pressure. The immense weight of unresolved grief can settle in your chest and lungs, creating a physical sensation of heaviness and making every breath feel like a struggle. Your body is a living history book of your emotional life. It is the physical printout of your consciousness. The psychiatrist Bessel van der Kolk explored this even more deeply in his groundbreaking work, showing how the body keeps the score, especially when it comes to trauma. When you experience an event that is too overwhelming for your brain and body to process, that immense survival energy, the impulse to fight or to flee, gets locked into your nervous system because it was not safe or possible to complete the action at the time. That energy freezes in your tissues. This is the root of so much chronic physical suffering. It is the mysterious back pain that has no clear structural cause. It is the fibromyalgia that doctors cannot explain. It is the irritable bowel syndrome that flares up under emotional distress. The devil you have been dancing with is not just a psychological concept. It has a physical address. It lives in the clenched muscles of your shoulders, the tight knot in your stomach, the shallow pattern of your breathing. To truly integrate your shadow, you must invite your body into the dance. If unresolved emotional energy is stored in the body, then it can also be released from the body. This is why practices that go beyond simply talking are so essential for deep and lasting healing. We must learn to listen to the body's story in its own language, which is the language of sensation. This is the work of somatic or body-based therapies. Practices like breathwork use the power of conscious breathing to unlock and release these frozen energetic patterns, often leading to powerful emotional releases that feel like a great dam breaking. Disciplines like yoga and qigong are not just forms of exercise. They are sophisticated systems for moving stagnant energy and uniting the mind and body. Even something as simple and primal as shaking a natural tremor response seen in animals after a trauma can help the human body discharge long-held stress and tension. You must come to see your body not as the source of your pain, but as the sacred vessel that has been courageously holding onto it for you, waiting patiently for you to be ready to feel it and let it go. Consider the story of a woman named Helen. To the outside world, Helen was a pillar of strength. She was the one everyone relied on, the one who carried the weight of the world on her shoulders without complaint. For over a decade, she had suffered from severe, chronic lower back pain. She had tried everything: physical therapy, chiropractic adjustments, pain medication, injections. Nothing provided more than temporary relief. The pain was a constant, draining presence in her life. Finally, in desperation, she began working with a therapist who specialized in somatic experiencing. In one session, the therapist guided Helen to focus not on the story of her pain, but on the pure physical sensations in her back. As she did, a deep, trembling tremor began in her legs, The therapist encouraged her to allow it. Suddenly, Helen was overwhelmed by a wave of emotion. An image flashed in her mind of herself as a small 7-year-old girl, standing between her two constantly fighting parents, feeling responsible for holding the family together, for carrying the emotional weight of the entire household. With this image came a surge of raw, untamed rage that she had never allowed herself to feel. Rage at the unfair burden placed on her small shoulders. She wept and raged. And as the emotional storm passed, something miraculous happened. For the first time in 10 years, the gripping pain in her back had eased into a dull ache. She realized she had been literally, physically, carrying the burden of that scared and enraged little girl in her muscles for her entire adult life. Her healing was not in her back. It was in the release of the story her back was telling. As you do this work of emotional release, your entire relationship with your body begins to transform. When you are at war with your shadow, your body is often treated as just another part of the enemy. You punish it with restrictive diets. You force it into grueling exercise routines you hate. You ignore its pleas for rest in the name of productivity. But as you make peace with yourself, as you make peace with your body, it becomes your cherished partner, your wisest advisor, your sacred home. Your relationship with food shifts from one of emotional numbing or control to one of nourishment. You start to intuitively listen to what your body actually wants. What gives it energy and vitality? Exercise transforms from a punishment into a celebration. You move your body not because you hate it, but because you love it. A run becomes a joyful expression of freedom. A yoga class becomes a moving meditation. A dance becomes an act of pure play. And you learn to honor the sacred rhythm of rest. You see that rest is not laziness, but a vital and productive part of the cycle of healing and growth. The time when your body repairs itself and integrates the changes you have made. Your body is constantly speaking to you. Its aches are a conversation. Its energy levels are a report card on your emotional state. Its illnesses are often a desperate plea for your attention. Learning to listen to its subtle whispers means it will no longer have to scream for your attention through debilitating pain and disease. When your body, the grand ballroom of your existence, is finally cleared of the emotional ghosts of the past, it becomes a place of joy, strength, and vibrant energy. It is no longer a heavy burden you must drag through life, but a light and powerful instrument that can fully express the music of your soul. It becomes a clear and resonant channel for your purpose. And as you become a truly clear and whole individual with your mind, your soul, and your body finally dancing to the same rhythm, you inevitably begin to ponder your connection to the larger whole. Your personal, integrated dance starts to feel like a small but essential part of a much larger, collective dance. We must now explore the incredible ripple effect of your inner peace and how your personal healing is, in fact, a profound act of service to the healing of the world. You have journeyed from the mind to the heart to the body, learning to integrate the fragmented parts of your being into a harmonious whole. You have made peace with your inner devil, and in doing so, you have cultivated a state of profound personal peace. It would be easy to see this as the final destination, a private victory to be quietly enjoyed. But the dance of integration does not end with you. The peace you have cultivated is not a treasure to be hoarded. It is a light to be radiated. We must now expand our perspective and understand the extraordinary, world-changing power of your personal transformation. We must explore the ripple effect, the way your inner peace becomes a potent force for the healing of the world. To understand this, we must first introduce the concept of the collective shadow. Just as an individual pushes their unacceptable traits into the darkness of their unconscious, so doing sabotages. The collective shadow of humanity is the sum total of all the individual, unhealed, unacknowledged shadows of its people. It is the source of the greed that fuels systemic inequality, the fear that drives racism and tribalism, the rage that erupts into war, and the numbness that allows for the destruction of our planet. These great wounds of the world are not abstract political problems. They are psychological and spiritual problems. They are the collective's inner devil, acting out on a global scale. For centuries, we have tried to heal these collective wounds from the outside in. We have fought wars to end all wars. We have passed laws to legislate morality. We have shouted at the darkness, hoping it would go away. But these efforts often fail or create new problems because they do not address the root cause. The root cause is the shadow within the hearts of individual human beings. This leads us to a simple, yet profound and often overlooked principle. You cannot give what you do not have. You cannot contribute peace to the world if you are at war with yourself. A person who is filled with inner conflict, who has not made peace with their own anger, their own fear, their own greed, will inevitably project that shadow onto the world. Their activism, no matter how well-intentioned, will be tainted by the very energy they claim to be fighting against. The activist who fights against anger with more anger only adds to the world's rage. The politician who tries to create unity from a place of personal division and us versus them thinking only deepens the rifts in society. True, lasting, positive change in the world does not begin with pointing a finger at the darkness outside. It begins by courageously turning inward to face the darkness within. Healing the world is an inside job. Imagine the state of the world as a vast, dark room. This room represents all the suffering, the fear, and the unconsciousness of the collective shadow. It seems immense, overwhelming, impenetrable. You could spend your entire life screaming at the darkness, cursing it, fighting it with all your might, and you would only exhaust yourself and accomplish nothing. The darkness would not even notice. But then, you decide to try a different way. You stop fighting the outer darkness and you turn your attention inward. You undertake the difficult, personal journey of integrating your own shadow. This inner work is the sacred act of striking a match in the dark. And with that match, you light a single, small candle. This candle is your own integrated consciousness, your own inner peace. Now, observe what happens. The candle does not fight the darkness. It does not try to push the darkness away. It does not rage against the darkness. It simply is. It holds its light, and by its very presence, the nature of the room is transformed. The darkness in its immediate vicinity simply ceases to be. It has been replaced by light. This is the first ripple. Your personal peace has already changed the energetic composition of the room. Now, what happens next? Someone else, stumbling in the darkness, sees your small, brave flame. They are drawn to its warmth and clarity. They approach you, and you allow them to light their own candle from your flame. In doing so, your own light is not diminished in any way. In fact, the total light in the room has now doubled. Then another person comes, and another, and another. Each individual who does their own inner work is another candle being lit in the great room of the world. This is how consciousness shifts. It spreads not through force, but through resonance and inspiration. There is a concept known as the 100th monkey effect. As the story goes, scientists observing monkeys on a Japanese island saw one brilliant monkey learn to wash the sand off her sweet potato in the ocean. Soon, the other monkeys in her tribe began to learn by imitation. But the extraordinary thing was this: once a critical number of monkeys on that island had learned the new skill, monkeys on other, completely separate islands, with no physical contact, spontaneously began washing their potatoes as well. This story illustrates the idea of a collective consciousness field. Each of us who does the inner work of moving from fear to love, from division to wholeness, adds our energy to this field. We are one of the monkeys learning a new way. And when a critical mass of individuals achieves this inner shift, it can create a tipping point. a spontaneous evolution in the consciousness of the entire species. You do not have to wait for this tipping point to become an agent of change. Your very being, your peaceful and integrated presence, is a form of powerful, silent activism. Have you ever been in a tense meeting where everyone is agitated, and then one calm, centered person walks in and, without saying much, the entire energy of the room begins to settle? That person's peace is a resonant frequency that entrains the energy of others. Your calm becomes a calming influence. Your compassion creates a space where others feel safe enough to put down their own weapons. Your refusal to engage in gossip or blame starves the collective shadow of its favorite food. Your dance of integration, the way you move through the world with self-acceptance and grace, gives others the unspoken permission to do the same. You become a way shower, not by telling people what to do, but by embodying a different possibility. Your life itself becomes the teaching. The most profound way you can heal the world is to be a person who is no longer contributing to its unconsciousness. Therefore, you can release the heavy burden of feeling you must fix the world. That is the ego's ambition. The soul's calling is much simpler and far more powerful. Heal yourself. Tend to the garden of your own inner world. Make peace with your own devil. Lit your own candle and hold it steady. This is not a selfish act. It is the most selfless act you can possibly perform. Every judgment you transform into compassion. Every fear you transform into love. Every old wound you heal within yourself heals a tiny piece of the collective wound of humanity. You are, in a very real sense, doing this work for all of us. Recognizing that your personal dance is inextricably linked to the grand ballet of human evolution connects you to a profound sense of purpose. You are not just healing your own small life. You are a willing and active co-creator in the healing of the world. This realization opens you up to an even deeper level of partnership with the universe. One where you move from being a dancer who simply follows the steps to becoming a divine choreographer who helps to create the dance itself. We are now ready to explore this ultimate level of conscious co-creation. You have journeyed from the deepest shadows of your personal psyche to the vast, interconnected web of collective consciousness. You have learned to take responsibility for your inner world, knowing it is the seed of your outer reality. You have made peace with your past, and you have begun to consciously embody a new, integrated self in the present. Now, we arrive at the final evolution of this dance. It is time to move beyond being a dancer who responds to the music of life, and to become a conscious partner with the musician itself. It is time to step into your ultimate power as a divine choreographer, a co-creator of your reality in loving partnership with the universe. This is a step beyond the basic law of attraction. The initial understanding is about aligning your vibration to attract experiences to you. The co-creative dance is about allowing the intelligence of the universe to create through you. It is a shift from a passive, magnetic model to an active, collaborative partnership. It is the difference between wishing for rain and becoming the vessel through which the rain can fall. The sacred space where this co-creation occurs is your own magnificent human imagination. We have been taught to see imagination as a frivolous faculty, a place for idle daydreams and childhood fantasies. This is perhaps the greatest lie we have ever been told. Your imagination is not a fantasy. It is the workshop of God. It is the divine studio, where the unseen patterns of spirit are molded into the tangible forms of the material world. Every single thing that has ever been created by human hands, from the chair you are sitting on to the satellites orbiting the Earth, first had to exist as a sustained image in someone's imagination. By doing the deep work of integrating your shadow, you have cleared this workshop of its clutter. You have swept away the dust of self-doubt and the debris of old fears. You can now use this sacred faculty with a clarity and power that was previously impossible. The great mystical teachers, like Neville Goddard, understood that the key to creation was not just seeing an image, but feeling a state of being. The art of co-creation lies in assuming the feeling of the wish fulfilled. This is the core technique of the divine choreographer. You do not simply visualize the thing you desire. You inhabit the emotional state you would experience if your desire were already a fact. If you desire a loving partnership, you do not endlessly visualize a specific person's face. Instead, you close your eyes and you cultivate within yourself, right now, the actual feeling of being cherished, adored, safe, and deeply in love. You let that feeling saturate your entire being until it feels more real than your current physical reality. If you desire vibrant health, you cease focusing on the symptoms of illness and you generate the feeling of vitality, of energy, of the simple joy of a body that moves with ease. You feel it in your imagination until it becomes your dominant inner state. This feeling, this inner conviction that it is done, is the creative command. It is the finished sculpture in the workshop of your mind that the universe then begins to diligently build in the world of form. Let us imagine an entrepreneur named Maria. Her small, ethically sourced business, her life's passion, is failing. She is working 18-hour days, frantically sending emails, trying to control every variable, pushing against a wall of resistance. She is exhausted, burnt out, and on the verge of giving up. In a moment of surrender, she stops. She realizes her frantic doing is fueled by a shadow of fear, and it isn't working. She decides to try a different way. Every morning, instead of diving into her emails, she dedicates 30 minutes to the role of the divine choreographer. She doesn't visualize checks arriving in the mail. Instead, she gets quiet and cultivates the feeling of her wish fulfilled. She imagines the feeling of deep gratitude and relief. She generates the feeling of joy as she reads a glowing email from a happy customer. She imagines the feeling of creative, collaborative flow with her small team. She feels the quiet pride of building a business that is both successful and making a positive impact. She lives in this emotional state for 30 minutes. And then she does something crucial. And she lets it go. This is the second great secret of co-creation. You must let go of the cursed hows. Your job, as the choreographer, is to define the what and the why. You choose the emotional tone, the feeling state of the finished dance. The universe's job, as the infinitely intelligent and resourceful lead dancer, is to handle the how, trying to micromanage the process, to figure out exactly how it will all come together, is a sign of distrust. It is you telling the master choreographer that you don't think it knows the steps. When you truly assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled, you enter a state of inner peace, a Sabbath where you rest in the knowledge that it is already done. This state of trust and surrender is what opens the door for the universe to work its magic in the most surprising, elegant, and miraculous ways, through avenues you could never have conceived of with your limited, logical mind. Maria, after her morning practice, goes about her day taking inspired, but not frantic, action. She has surrendered the outcome. A week later, she receives a phone call from an old colleague she hasn't spoken to in years. He has just launched a new online marketplace that is a perfect fit for her products and wants her to be a featured launch partner. This single opportunity, which came completely out of the blue, revitalizes her entire business. It was a how she could never have planned, orchestrated by the universe, once she got out of the way and simply held the feeling of her desired end state. As you practice this, your relationship with the universe transforms once more. It is no longer a neutral law to be manipulated, or even just a compassionate mirror. You begin to feel it as a loving and biased partner. The creative force of life is not ambivalent about your success. It is biased in favor of more life, more love, more beauty, more joy, more expansion. When your personal desires align with this universal impulse, the desire to create beauty, to serve others, to express love, to grow, the full force of the cosmos gets behind you. You stop feeling like you are swimming against the current. You feel as though you are being carried by a powerful, loving wave. Your personal will and the divine will become one. This is the ultimate dance. It is a dance of complete trust, of joyful creation, of profound partnership. As you become a master of this dance of co-creation, feeling the seamless flow between your inner vision and your outer reality, a final, beautiful, and world-altering realization begins to dawn in your consciousness. The last veil of separation begins to thin. You start to question the very idea of a partnership, which implies two separate entities. What if the dancer and the divine choreographer are not two, but one? What if the devil you have been dancing with, your own shadow, was simply the part of you that believed you were separate from this creative power in the first place? To complete our journey, we must now take this final step to unmask the devil completely and realize the ultimate, blissful oneness of all things. We have danced the dance of co-creation, moving in harmony with the great intelligence of the universe. You have learned to be a conscious choreographer of your reality, using your imagination as a sacred workshop and your feeling state as a powerful command. You have felt the thrill of aligning your personal will with the divine will, of being carried by the loving current of life. And as you rest in this state of creative partnership, a final question begins to emerge from the silence. A question that pulls at the last remaining thread of separation. What if this partnership, which implies two, is itself an illusion? What if the dancer and the divine choreographer are not separate entities at all? We now arrive at the final movement of our dance, the great unmasking. It is time to look the devil in the face, once and for all, and see the truth that has been waiting for you since the beginning of time. The entire journey we have taken together, from the very first step of acknowledging your inner turmoil, has been a process of healing the illusion of separation. First, we worked to heal the separation between your good self and your bad shadow. Then we healed the separation between your inner world and your outer experience, realizing they are a mirror of each other. Now we must heal the original wound, the fundamental schism from which all other feelings of separation are born. The belief that you are separate from God, separate from the universe, separate from the very source of life itself. This belief in your separateness is the genesis of all fear. It is the first shadow. It is the core programming that creates an inner devil whose primary function is to navigate a world in which you feel small, vulnerable, and alone. The healing of this final illusion is the ultimate homecoming. Imagine a hero who has spent their entire life training for one single purpose: to journey to the center of a vast, ancient labyrinth and slay the monstrous beast that lives there. This beast, they have been told, is the source of all the fear and darkness in the land. The hero, armed with the sword of awareness and the shield of courage, enters the winding passages. The journey is long and difficult. They must navigate corridors of doubt, chambers of old grief, and tunnels of suffocating fear. This has been your journey through the labyrinth of your own subconscious. Finally, the hero arrives at the very heart of the labyrinth, the monster's lair. Their heart is pounding. Their sword is raised. They are ready for the final, epic battle. They burst into the central chamber and are met not with the roar of a monster, but with a profound and total silence. The chamber is empty, save for one object standing in the center, a large, magnificent, floor-to-ceiling mirror. The hero approaches cautiously, peering into the reflection. And there, staring back at them, sword raised and face etched with a mixture of terror and determination, is the monster they have been hunting their entire life. It is their own reflection. In that moment of pure recognition, the illusion shatters. The sword clatters to the floor. The decades of fear, the years of struggle, the entire quest to defeat an external enemy, all of it dissolves in a wave of stunned, compassionate, and liberating understanding. There was never a monster. There was never an enemy. There was only a reflection of a self that did not know its own true nature. The devil was a mask worn by the parts of themselves they had been unwilling to face and to love. This is the great unmasking. I invite you now to look back at your own devil. The inner critic, the saboteur, the voice of your deepest fears. After all this work, after peeling back the layers of programming, what do you see now when you look at its face? You see that it was never a demon. At its absolute core, it was a terrified inner child. It was the part of you that felt cut off from love, separate from safety, and alone in the universe. Its entire, clumsy, and often destructive repertoire of behaviors was a desperate attempt to protect that vulnerable child from further pain. The dance with the devil was never a battle. It has been a long, slow, and sacred process of earning that child's trust, of reassuring it that it is safe, and of finally welcoming it home into the wholeness of your own heart. The final act of integration, therefore, is not a technique or a strategy. It is the simple, profound, and continuous state of unconditional self-love. It is a radical yes to the totality of your being. It is loving the part of you that meditates and the part that gets lost in angry thoughts. It is loving your generosity and loving your selfishness. It is loving your courage and loving your fear. It is abandoning the entire project of self-improvement in favor of the much deeper practice of self-acceptance. In this state, the inner war is over for good, because there are no longer any declared enemies within your borders. Every citizen of your inner world is welcomed, loved, and seen as a valid and essential expression of the whole. This is the ultimate peace. This is the music of silence you have been cultivating. This leads us to the final, transcendent realization, the view from the very center of the labyrinth. You are the dancer, the dance, and the ballroom. These are not three separate things. The dancer is your individual personality, the unique expression of form moving through this life. The dance is the creative energy of life itself, the river of purpose and passion that flows through you. And the ballroom is the vast, silent, formless awareness, consciousness itself, in which the entire spectacle unfolds. You are not just one of these things. You are all of them. Simultaneously, you are the wave, you are the ocean, and you are the stillness of the deep that holds them both. From this perspective of oneness, the very concept of a devil to be danced with becomes a loving paradox. How can you dance with an other when there is no other? The entire dance has simply been the magnificent, complex, and beautiful process of the one rediscovering itself. In this boundless, unified peace, the frantic dance dissolves into a state of effortless being. The story we have told, the journey from fear to wholeness, comes to a gentle close. But it is not an ending. It is an awakening to the truth of what has always been. The devil has been unmasked, and its face is revealed as your own sacred reflection, calling you home. And now, all that remains is to carry the echo of this profound truth back into the quiet and simple rhythm of your life. To summarize the incredible journey we have taken together, and to rest in the unshakable peace that is, and has always been, your divine birthright. And so, we arrive at the end of our journey together. Though it is, in truth, a beginning. We have traveled from the dark and noisy basement of the psyche to the silent, sunlit rooftop of expanded awareness. We began by acknowledging the uninvited guest, the inner devil we had spent our lives fighting. We found the courage to learn its history, tracing its roots to the pains and programming of our past. We learned to translate its confusing language of sabotage, recognizing it not as malice, but as a misguided cry for help. The great turning point came when we stopped fighting and chose to dance, offering radical acceptance to the very parts of ourselves we had pushed away. In doing so, we discovered the devil's true intention was never to harm, but always to protect. This was the key to the sacred alchemy of integration, transforming the lead of our fears into the gold of our strengths. We learned to rewrite our inner contract, to embody our new wholeness through small, courageous actions, and to see the profound ripple effect of our inner peace as it touched our relationships and the world itself. We rose to become co-creators with the universe. And finally, in the heart of the labyrinth, we unmasked the devil completely, only to see our own sacred face staring back at us. The core message of this entire journey is this: peace is not found by vanquishing your demons, but by befriending them. The parts of you that you have feared and shamed the most are not your enemies. They are your exiled children, holding the keys to your greatest power and your most profound liberation. The goal was never victory. It was wholeness. True self-mastery is not about controlling yourself. It is about finally, unconditionally, accepting yourself. The dance, of course, continues. Life will bring you new music, new partners, and new opportunities to stumble and to soar. But you are different now. You are no longer dancing in the dark. You now hold the knowledge that you are the dancer, the dance, and the silent, peaceful ballroom in which it all unfolds. You have the tools. When the voice of the inner critic arises, you will know how to meet it with compassion. When you feel the pull of an old, painful pattern, you will know how to pause and choose a new step. When you feel lost, you will know how to listen for the whispers of cosmic choreography. You are the alchemist. You are the choreographer. You are the peace you have been seeking. The war is over. Welcome home.